opportunities still keeps on increasing. So I feel like this is a field that, that is still going to be available. Now we have AI, which which is threatening everybody's job. But I feel like if you keep yourself like at the top of your field, AI will not be a problem. And that's why it's good that we're, going through a training like this, so that we can stay on top of the field. And, as many tools keeps on coming up, we just make sure we adopt them quickly and become masters in them. All right. Okay, so far, do we have any questions? I can imagine you have questions. Obviously I've said, okay, Marika's hands is up. So obviously I've said, we can reach out during the week and we can set something up. So if you have questions that, are like so much that we can't really go through on the call, I like it if we can go through some questions on the call anyway, because everybody gets to learn from it that way. But obviously we have so many questions, then, we can have another session for that. Okay, so Malika, your hand was raised. Sure.
Yes, I would love to know what has been covered so far
Yeah,
and whether or not I can reasonably, catch up to speed with the rest
yeah,
of crew.
yeah. Okay, that's good. Tosi, how about you?
So my question is around the last class.
Yeah,
I still haven't been able to catch up fully to everything. I stopped halfway with the last class, so I'll say I'm
yeah,
about 2 hours in.
yeah.
But from the last class, I sorry, let me just can I share my screen?
Sure, sure, sure.
All right, thanks. Can you see my screen?
Coming up.
No,
Yeah,
and you can see my Power Platform screen, my Power Apps
yes,
screen.
yes, it's cool up.
Okay, yeah. So my problem, where I stopped was the charts. I created the charts, but for some reason it wouldn't um, appear when
Oh,
I
okay.
view
So
charts.
it was class, right? So if you go to okay, it's on the student table. So can you see where you see shows chart at the top there?
Sorry, come again.
Can you click on that?
Yeah.
Click on show chart, yes. So that's your chart.
Oh, I see.
And if you
I've been doing it
have,
for years.
and if you have,
So I
so
think I was doing it from
yeah,
the show charts.
for a long time, I didn't know how to get it also. Um, okay, so it says no, okay, that's on students table. So you need to be on the students table.
Oh, so this
Oh,
is
you
on the
don't have,
subjects.
okay, you have a student table down there.
I have a student
Yes.
table.
So if you click on, no, that's student subject. So if you click on the actual students, then you should see a chat.
All right, yeah.
Then if you have multiple chats too, you can switch around those chats. Okay.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks.
All right. So in terms of what we've covered, I'm just going to give like an overview of what we've done so far. And obviously we have the recordings. I hope I have shared them with you, but I'll just double check if I've shared all of them. So we've had 4 classes, so more like say 4 weeks so far. And in terms of what we've covered, I think we started with, well, introduction to Power Platform, just like a quick overview of the whole Power Platform. Then I think we started with Dataverse. We looked at Dataverse, security setup, table setup, and stuff like that. Then recently we started looking into model-driven apps. I think Dataverse almost took us 2 weeks to cover because there was like a lot of stuff. Then I think the last few classes too, we started looking at model-driven apps. How do you customize model-driven apps? Today we are going to start with the later end of the model-driven apps bit. Then we will go into Canvas apps. So that's kind of how we've taken it so far. But yeah, Marika, I would maybe suggest, I don't know how far you've been able to go with the recordings.
So I have week 1 and week 2. I'm almost done with week 1.
Okay.
So yeah, that I'll have to catch up.
Yeah, okay,
The week
yeah. Yeah, I think that's me, no. And I did the same thing for Tosin because Tosin also didn't start from the beginning. So rather than give you everything, I think I chose to like share it one after the other, just to
Right,
give you that sequence of, okay, you complete week one, then you go into week two, so that you don't just find yourself clicking through everything at the same time.
right,
So if we can follow that sequence, I think it's going to be good. But obviously, there's a lot of content to cover already. But yeah, I feel so just go through them. Then as you have questions, because you are not in the live class, so we can always schedule something during the week to just catch up and answer those questions. But the good thing is what we're gonna cover, well, maybe the model driven app might still be it might be a little bit distant, but we're starting fresh with Canvas app, so it's more like a new thing that all of us are going through. So you'll be able to follow from today, if you get what I mean.
right. And then the next thing quickly, I'll say I'm trying to log into Power Apps. And
I've
I
missed that totally.
I
I was
I
supposed to set up
Mhm.
an account for you.
You did set it up. I don't know if you had deleted the one you set up, Delegate 2.
Delegate to
So it's not
Tosin. Tosin, your delegate what?
I'm delegate 3.
Delegate three. Okay, Faruk is delegate one. Okay, you're delegate two. So let's see, because the environments get deleted usually when they're not active for a while. Let me see if delegate two. Okay, yeah, delegate two is gone. Um, let's see. Okay, let's quickly do another one. So since you have the account already, I think it should be easier. Manage. And this is a tutorial of how to create an environment. So
okay.
it's still quite handy. So basically, from Power Apps, the Power Apps homepage, which is make.powerapps.com. And for you to do stuff like manage environment, you need to go to the admin center, and you can access that if you click on the gear icon. So let me zoom in a little bit more. So if you click on this gear icon at the top, settings, then you click on admin center. I do that a lot of times, but you can also access it by going to admin.powerplatform.com. Okay, so this is the admin center, and I think in one of the classes we looked at, a couple of things around the admin center. So if you want to create an environment, you go to manage, and this is a new admin center. So in some documentation, you might see it look a little bit different, but this is the new design. So that's what we are working with. So to create so once you come to manage, you click on environments and you see a list of environments here. So if you want to create a new one, you can click on new and give it a name. So let me call this Delegate Tools Developer Environment. Now, managed environment is something quite recent. But the things you want to know about managed environment is everybody in that environment needs to have a Power Apps license. And when I say Power Apps license, I mean the paid license. So managed environment gives some additional governance features. But yeah, obviously everybody needs to have a paid account, which is not realistic for every organization. Now, the type of environment, in this case, we are creating a developer environment, and we're creating it on behalf of delegates to. Okay. Now, developer environment is like a free environment. Usually, you used to be able to apply for it on your own, but Microsoft have made some changes and they don't allow that anymore. So, except you can only get it from an existing Power Apps environment. So that's why I'm able to dish them out. I hope I'm always able to do that. Then I can just click on save and it's going to start creating the environment. So hopefully shortly you should have an environment to work with. All right. So we looked at a couple of things around model-driven app last week, and I just want to, we've mentioned configure custom pages, but I just want to mention it again. And so far, so Malika, once you go through the recordings, you will start building out a solution like this. So the one we've been working on is kind of like a school scenario. And you know, that's where we have the classes, the students, and student classes and subjects. Yeah. So once you're going through the courses, the recordings, you'll start building out the solution. So hopefully before the next class, you will have had your solution and it will be easier for you to follow along. So for the school apps, I'm just going to open this one up. And I want to talk about custom pages, right? Which we have already. Let's see. Okay. So when you want to create a custom page, the whole idea of custom pages is it allows you to embed a form of Canvas app looking app within a model-driven app, right? And a quick way to do that is to click on Add Page and you choose Custom Page here. Then it's going to show you the different pages you have created in that environment and you can select one of them. So I'm conscious of not repeating everything again because it's already covered. So Malika, you get the full picture once you go through the recordings.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's really how you had a custom page. So you're bringing the capabilities of Canvas apps because model-driven apps, as we've said, model-driven apps is focused on Dataverse, right? And Canvas apps, you can connect to multiple data sources. So custom pages allows you to bring the advantages of Canvas apps. It allows you to bring it into model-driven apps. So you can use connectors, all of those things you could do from your Canvas apps. You can now do it within a model-driven app using the custom page. So that's quite handy. Because with that you can have more customized experience. And I've done something for a client recently and I've had to use custom pages a lot because they wanted some extra functionality. If I wanted that extra functionality, I would have maybe needed to write some JavaScript to bring it into model-driven apps. But with custom pages, I can still use the same knowledge I have of creating Canvas apps. I can now use it to have like custom experiences within my model-driven app. So that's very useful. Now, when you're creating a custom page, and I mentioned this when we were talking about it, right? Before, you could create multiple pages within a custom page, but now that's restricted. So a custom page can have only one screen, which is good anyway. So yeah, we've seen how we can do that. Command bar also, we've looked at, I think we've covered it a couple of times, but just for the sake of repetition. So if I click on play, so basically the command bar are those buttons that you see at the top of, whatever page you have opened. So this is a view and there's a command bar. The command bar we can see now on this view is different from the command bar we see when we open up the form, for example, right? So that's the idea of these locations. So there are 4 locations you can have a command bar. You can have it in the main grid, You can have it in the main form, you can have it in the subgrid view, and you can have it in the associated view. And I showed us what all of these different views are. So for example, this is the main grid. So when you are looking at a list, a view, when you're looking at a list view, the command bar at the top is called the main grid. If you open up a form, for example, this is a form, right? So the command bar at the top here is the one on the main form. For the subgrid, I think we have a subgrid view. So let me come to student. So this is a subgrid view, and these buttons here, or these commands here, right? This is the command bar in the subgrid view. And we have the associated view that comes up when you when you show related records. So if you click on this button and you choose a related table, so you can see the associated view. Those buttons here, those are the command bar in the associated view. So why do you care about command bars? As we've seen in the previous classes, in some cases, you might want to add a custom button. Maybe you want to run a custom calculation. In an app I've done, I have a button because I needed the users of the app to be able to get the ID of the record. But within Dataverse itself, you can't do that, or within model-driven apps itself, you can't get the ID out. So I had a custom button that I put here that triggers, that just brings up, it brings like a form of a notification and it shows the ID. So those are things you can do with a custom button. So if I want to make an example of something like that, so let's come here let's come into the app. So I can come to classes. So where do you get to manage the commands? So if you come to the view and you click on this more icon, you see edit command bar. And once you click on that, you can say edit in a new tab. And it asks you, okay, which of the command bars do you want to edit, right? In this case, I can say I want to edit the main form and click on edit. And I can add a new command. So I hope I've not lost us. We've covered this already, so this is just like a repetition. I particularly love the whole idea of commands. That's why I'm doing this again, because it's very useful and it can make your app really smart. So in this case, let me say show ID, right? And basically, when you are doing commands, you have two options in terms of the action. You can either run a command or you can run a JavaScript. Before now, it's just JavaScript we had, right? But we are low-code developers mostly, so we like to keep things low-code. So it's awesome that they've added the ability to use formulas. And when we do Canvas app, we'll really talk about formulas a lot more. So I can say open formula bar and type in a command here. I can say confirm, or should I use notify? I think I like confirm. Let's just do confirm. And let's just say, so let's say self dot selected dot item dot. So this is, what table did I do this on? Classes. So dot class. Okay. So in so when you're dealing with formulas, we use dots, and a lot of times, so there's something called IntelliSense. You see it when you're doing, even as a normal developer, not low code, when you're using your IDE tools. A lot of IDEs, that's the like things like Visual Studio Code that people use to type code, there's something called IntelliSense, which is when the software kind of suggests possible values to you. So when you're doing Power App stuff, Canvas app stuff, when you're typing Power FX code, use that a lot because it kind of suggests what the values are. So in some cases, you don't even know what the code should be, but you know what you're trying to get. In this case, I'm trying to get the selected records ID. So I've started with self and I put dot. When I do dot, I can see the different options. These are different options, but in this case, I want the selected record. So I go to selected. If I click on dot, I see the options again, and I'm basically looking for the option that makes sense for what I'm trying to achieve. So in this case, items, all items is maybe when we have multiple items, right? In this case, maybe just items, then dots, then in Dataverse, the ID of a table is stored in a column that has the same name as the table. So Malika, I can see your hands up, but let me quickly say this. So if we go to the class table, because this is also useful when you're doing automation. So if we see the class table, you see I have a column called class. Now that is the ID column for that table. So every database used to have like a unique ID, right? So for Dataverse, a table that is called class will have a column called class with, and you'll see here it says class ID, unique identifier. If you go to accounts table, you will see a column called account, right, which is the unique identifier. So if you ever find yourself in a case where you're trying to find the ID of a record, just know that it is reflected on it's the same name as the table name. So that can be a good way for you to find that out. Okay, Malika.
So, for someone who doesn't come from a tech or coding background like myself,
Yeah.
what is the logic behind this? And
Yeah.
for future, I'm trying to understand this from a non-tech person perspective so I can get there.
Yeah. Okay. So basically what we're trying to achieve with commands, right, is we're trying to add some custom functionality to our app. So by default, when you open a model-driven app, you see all of these buttons, right? So all of this stuff, they've been done by Microsoft. But if you want a custom behavior on your app, you can now do that by editing the command bar, which is what we've done here. So that's how we got here, and we are editing the main form. Now we've added a button called Show ID. And we've said, okay, what do we want to do? We want to display the ID to the user. So to keep it simple, I've used this function called confirm. And I think in one of the previous classes, we did confirm too. So basically what confirm does is it shows a dialogue and it's kind of puts the text here. And so we'll test this out anyway. So it shows a dialogue and it presents this text that you've supplied in here as the text in the dialogue. So if I save and publish this, let me do that and we'll click on play so we see what this code has actually done. Then we can come back to understand the code better. And yeah, when we do Canvas app, we'll be doing a lot of the coding stuff. So that's going to be interesting. So if I click on play, and so we did that on the main form. So that's why we don't see it here because this is the main grade. If we come into one of the classes, now we can see that button we just added, which is show ID. So if I click on this button and it just brings up this text that I've supplied. So now this is the ID of this record. So that's what I've done in this case. But based on whatever code you write in here, that's what's going to determine what happens when you click on the button. So in some cases, maybe you're not just showing something. Maybe you want to save a record. So I can say, let me use this to change the name. So maybe I call this change name instead, or I can have another button. I have another command that says, let's call this change name. Then, so what do we want to do with this one? We still want to run a formula, and we can say, so in this case, we want to patch a record. We'll look at patch to when we are doing the Canvas app. But if you want to patch a record, patching is a code you can use to or either create a record, update a record, right? So you can use patch to create records in your database. You can use patch to update a record in your database. So in this case, I can say patch, what's the table class? I think it's coming as classes. So I can say patch classes. What record do I want to patch? Can anybody guess the code for the selected record? So based on what we see here. So if I want to get the selected record, what code am I going to be typing?
Self-selected.
So self.selected or item. So if I say self, meanwhile, yeah, maybe even self.selected, but let's do the item. Okay. So then now when you're typing PowerFX code, and when I say PowerFX code, I just mean these Power Apps functions that you type to implement logic. A lot of times you see this pop up. Now, when you are just learning, keep an eye on this pop up because it gives you an idea of what the function is expecting. So if you look at it here now, it says patch function, right? So we need a minimum of 3 parameters. We need the source. The source is the data source that we're trying to update. And if I come here, if I just put a comma here, you see it kind of explains what is expecting. So it's just so if I say patch then I say classes. So you can see it says patch classes, then was it self.selected, right? .selected.item, right? You can see the patch, it's expecting the source, the record. So the source is the data source that we're trying to patch. That's the table you're trying to patch. And you remember I said when you're patching, you're trying to either create a record or update a record. Now, if you are updating a record, then you need to pass in the record you want to update to this record parameter. Then the last thing you want to provide here is update. So what do you want to update? Then you do it this way. So yeah, at the end of the day, this is code. And this is where, a lot of times when you are being sold the Power Platform, they say, oh, welcome, this is low code, this is low code. But when you get into it, you realize, oh, I'm already typing 100 lines of code to get this app to work, right? So at the end of the day, you need logic. When you do the initial demos, it kind of looks like magic. They just take you to an Excel form and Power Apps generates the app for you. But in the real world, that's not a real solution. So in the real world, you find yourself typing in a lot of this logic. So there are a couple of ways to look at that. The more you do it, the more you know it's better. Just like initially, there were a lot of things that I didn't really understand that I would need to Google before I could do it. But now, because I've done it so many times, it's just I understand it. Even this whole idea of patching the record, the way you lay out the code, all of those things, from the onset, I didn't understand it. But the more you do something, the better you. And the good one thing about coding is very repetitive. right? We are still relevant because where what your job as a programmer in a lot of cases is applying that coding knowledge to a particular problem, to a new problem. But in terms of the actual coding knowledge, is the same. You are just applying it differently. So the good thing is once you become familiar with the structure, you can always apply it in different places and you still stay relevant, if you get what I mean. So don't be too hard on yourself if you look at this and you're like, oh, this is too complex. What does this even mean? A lot of times they don't mean anything logically because it is code. A lot of times they don't mean anything if you look at it with logic. What's patch? Patch is not even an English word, right? So don't try to relate it so much to English. Well, it's still English to an extent, right? But don't try to relate it so much to a concept you already understand, because in a lot of cases, this is a new concept. And you see that in programming, every programming language has, the different ways they type. Some programming languages, you need to put semicolon. Some you don't need to. Some programming languages, the number of spaces you put will determine whether your code is correct or not. So every tool has their own way of working. So where you just need to get yourself is you need to get yourself familiar to how the code works in Power Apps, right? And you get that from practice. So as Farouk mentioned last week, I'll be presenting a case scenario that we are going to be building. So as much as we are doing all of this in the class, on the side, you are going to be building that out yourself. So while you're doing that, you're going to be discovering some of this knowledge, because at that point you'll be looking out for it yourself. So you're not just repeating what I've done in the class, you're doing something more custom, and you're kind of the champion of that. So I feel like that's going to be very handy. Okay, are we on track? We'll go on the break by in the next 8 minutes. So, but are we all on track?
So yes, and that helps a lot. I get the logic now. Okay, like
Yeah,
source, record, update, perfect.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, but is there a last item that we need to add? And would it be name if the if
Exactly. Yeah.
okay, I'm getting it. And I can. So
so
what language of coding is this? Python?
so
What is?
it's called PowerFX.
Oh, PowerFX. Okay.
Yes, for a long time it didn't have any name, but one day Microsoft just woke up and called it PowerFX.
Okay.
For a lot of times before then, we just used to say formula, Power Apps formulas or something, but one day they gave it a name. Let's see how long the name lasts before they change it to Copilot FX or something, because everything is called Copilot now. Okay. So, yeah, so because now we know we want to update the name, right? What is the name column called? I guess it's called name. Yeah, so it's called name. So within this record, because this record is by saying what's the record we want to update, we can now come here and say name. And you can see IntelliSense is still helping you, right? So pay attention to the suggestions it's giving you, because a lot of times it helps you learn the language better. So now you can see as I started typing name, it's telling me, okay, so I need name and a column. So I'm going to put that. Then I can now say new name. So I can just call it new name, right? So this is a PowerFX code to patch the current selected record within
How do
this table.
how do
Yeah,
you
go
know
on.
that you needed a column? Like what indicated column there?
So once I started typing name, so you can see it shows up name and a column. So I just clicked on that.
So
A
that
lot of
box
times,
means
yeah,
column. Okay.
yeah. Then you can now type in the value you want to give it. So it's interesting we're doing this before we go into Canvas app. So I feel like it's like a simpler introduction, because we'll be doing a lot of this in Canvas app. But the key points, look at the suggestions it's giving you. And a lot of times it tells you, okay, so the record that has to be patched, returns row with updates applied, right? If I do this one, the update that needs to be patched to the given record, returns row with updates applied, right? And you can kind of click to get some more context maybe. So it's just showing you different ways you can use the patch function. So within itself, it's kind of like a learning tool on its own and can be useful. Now, another thing about patches, you can actually do multiple records, but this is getting a little bit advanced. But for say you have multiple records, so let's say we have patch, we have the name. What else can we patch here? Maybe the age. I don't know if we had age. So if there are other columns, you can do that in a separate record, because if I click on comma, so anywhere you see comma dot dot dot, that means you can still have more things. It means these are the basic things you need, but there are still more options. So in this case, you can see patch record updates, but you can still have update, as many updates as you want for the same patch. So in some cases, they are useful. Maybe when we get into some other scenarios, we'll see. But for a simple scenario, this is it. So you just do the patch, the data source, the record you want to patch, and the update. So this is updates. So let's just type a comment. So there are two types of comments. There's a single line comment. So we are kind of doing Power FX now, right? So there's a single line comment which you do this way. So I can just say patch selected record, right? So in this case, so here I've just put a comment. The idea of comment in programming is it is not going to be evaluated. The app is not going to try to run this code, right? It's just you are just typing in a note for yourself or for any other person to understand what your code does. And we have multiple line comments, which you can do this way. So you do I don't know if this is a forward slash or backslash, but you do that. And like this. So anything you type in between here, anything I type here is a comment. So now you can see I have a multi-line comment. So unlike this one, if I try to take this one, if I try to continue in another line, you see it's going to try to start evaluating it because there's no comments. Except I do this again, then it becomes a comment. But so this is a single line comment, and this is a multi-line comment if you want to have multiple records. So do we understand the idea of comments now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, nice. So yeah, when you're doing your projects, when you're doing stuff, it's always good to add comments, especially in this whole world of AI anyway. So the more description you provide, the more AI possibly can help you. Okay, so that's that. So since we are on the topic of patch, let's do another scenario. And I'm going to add a new command, and I'll call this duplicate. Duplicate record, or clone, let's say clone record, right? So for this one, basically what I want to do is I want to create a new record. So rather than updating the current record, I want to create a new record with the same name, right? So basically I'm cloning the record. So I can still do the same thing, open formula bar and type in the code. So in this case, it's still the same thing. We are using patch, right? Remember I said you can use patch when you want to create a new record or you want to update a record. A lot of times when I'm typing code, once I open a bracket, I like to close it immediately. And I learned this even from my Python and Java development days. It just because if your brackets are imbalanced, then your code will be wrong. So a good practice is once you open it, close it immediately so you know that it will always be balanced. So I do that a lot. I can do patch, can do patch. I open it, I close it immediately, then I come back inside and click on enter. Right. Now, when I'm writing my code also, I try to make it readable. Some people would write code and they just put everything on a single line. So you can say patch classes, comma, defaults, classes, then you can say name is self.selected.item.name. Right? This code is correct. You can see there's no errors. But in terms of readability, I wouldn't say it's the easiest to read, right? So don't be bothered about about the space your code is occupying. Try to make it as readable as possible. I work with a colleague that, it doesn't particularly do that. And anytime I get a chance to go into his app, I just space everything out because I don't even know. Maybe well, in this country, a lot of people talk about ADHD and all of that. Lately, I've been thinking a little bit that do I actually have ADHD or something? Because when I look at this, it just gives me headache. I can't really relate with it until I space it out much better. So I don't know if it's a preference or maybe, I just want to be able to visualize things in a much easier way. So, but to me, when I look at this, I can easily follow through, right? I can easily understand and say, okay, yes, okay, you're patching the record. This is the record, and this is what you're updating.
You
So
won't
do we
believe
get what
that
I mean
people actually
about?
prefer. Yeah, you won't
Yeah,
believe
go on.
people actually prefer their code that way. That's the way they can actually read it without all the space.
Oh, really? So that's why I don't know. Maybe it's a preference thing. Maybe
I think it's
when
the preference thing.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know, but I just look at readability and I'm like, please space it out. Space it out so I can understand. Because some of these codes they get complex quickly. In this case, I'm just patching, just a single record. But in some cases, I'm doing some calculation to evaluate what record I'm actually patching. So imagine I'm doing maybe like a concat for all self dot selected dot item. So don't bother about this one. I'm just trying to show you how complex it can be. So maybe I now say name this, then comma this record dot whatever. Now I don't know how readable this is, but if I come in here, I'm like, oh no, please let me break this out so I can understand what's going on, right? Then I break it down a little bit more. Obviously, the code is longer, but to me, I feel like I understand it better. So now I can kind of see things clearer that says, okay, well, so this is what you're doing. You're doing a concat. Okay, what are you concating? You're concating the for all. You're doing this. To me, I feel like this is more readable. Obviously, it's taking more space, but it's more readable for me. What do you think your preference will be, guys? I think Tosin likes the one-line approach.
I would prefer it spaced out like you, okay.
Same,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
same thing.
I do one line approach, but when it gets complex,
Yeah.
I start to break it in phases.
Yeah, I feel like especially with Power Apps, it can get complex very quickly.
Yeah,
Um, so I always love the spaces. And they have a button where we get into Canvas app that automatically spaces it out. But I don't use that because it breaks it down too much. So there's a limit to the space I want, but it's just like a single button. Yeah, so
For
yeah,
me,
it breaks it
the
down
one line
ridiculously.
approach is
Yeah.
the one line approach for me is mostly when I do Power BI anyway. But if I'm doing
Okay.
like a Python,
Yeah.
then yeah, break it down.
Okay. So let me just say this, like we are over the break time already. But let me just quickly say this. So compared to the other one we were updating, what's the actual difference in the code? So this is the other one where we were updating. And this is the one where we're creating a new record. So can you spot any difference?
Can you
It's the
go
other
back?
one.
Defaults.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the source, we have the record. Is that the
Yeah.
record?
Yes, there's record, then the updates.
And the update. Okay. There's
Yeah.
a new column here, and then can you go back to the okay. We have the oh wait, at the top. Could you go back
Here,
again
right?
one more time? Yeah, I'm just
Okay. So
classes. So yeah, I think that's it.
yeah, so this is the difference, right? So when you're updating a record, you pass in the record you want to update. When you're trying to create a new record using patch, you use this pattern called defaults. So basically what defaults does is it just creates like an empty record, right? So that's what defaults does. And you can see we've said defaults of classes. So it just creates an empty record. Then you can now say, okay, what data do you want in this record? Then now basically what's going to happen is you're creating a new record on this table, and this is the value that will be supplied into the record. Tose.
Yeah. So my question is from the one that has to do with updating a record. Can you go back to
Yeah.
that one, please?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So down here we have name
Yeah.
and then a colon, and then we have in quotation marks new name.
New name.
So I would imagine the Power FX on the user interface doesn't take account to this new name because I think we already have like a name and a colon. That's what it's going to take account of. So what's it like if I wanted to update a new name? Will I now see that new name part of the code that's already in a quotation, that is in quotation marks?
Okay. I don't fully understand, but let me try and explain based on what I feel you're saying. So when you're updating, when you're doing database operations, you have four main operations, right? There's create, there's read, there's update, there's delete, right? When you're updating, you're saying whatever the existing value is, I want to change it to this new value I'm providing. So in this change name scenario, if we click on this button, what should happen if it works well is it changes the name. So for example, maybe there was year one there before. It changes that and the name now becomes new name. So because we are updating the record. I don't know if that answers the question.
Exactly, that's the answer.
Okay.
So what
Yeah,
you are updating it with is new name. You could put
exactly.
in parentheses Yusuf and then it updates it to Yusuf.
Yes, exactly. So whatever you put here,
That's
and
that's
this
the
is the
answer.
name column, you could potentially have other columns too, that you want to update. In this case, we don't really have a lot of custom columns, but maybe let's just look at this status. Is a default column, but let's just say we want to update the status also. And we can say status um status, and this is classes. You can say status dot active. So maybe if you want to make it inactive, right, you can set this, and once you click on this button, it will update the name to new name and it will set the record to inactive. right? So you can update multiple columns, not just one column. So in this case, we are updating just the name. But if you want to update other columns, you can just add them. Then those columns, so only the columns you specify are going to be updated. Yeah. So if for the creating a new record scenario, right? So instead of doing the self.selected whatever, you are um you are putting in defaults. So anytime the patch code sees default, is like, oh, this person wants to create a new record. It's not trying to update, it's trying to create a new record. And it just goes ahead and create a new record. So don't be confused by this. What it doesn't have to be self-selected. You can type in whatever, right? So you can type in whatever, and once it creates the new record, it's going to create the new record with whatever whatever this evaluates to. So if you have a code here, whatever the code result is going to put that in the name. Whatever whatever this evaluates to, here is just a string, so it's going to create a name with that. So I'm going to publish this, and let's go on a 10 minutes break till
Sorry, before
11.
we,
Yeah. Okay.
I've just I've just thought of something else with the first
Yeah.
question that I asked. So couldn't you leave the what do you call them, quotation marks? Yeah, couldn't you leave
Okay.
them empty, like just
So
space
something like
quotation mark and
this.
then in space? Yeah.
Yes, it's going to accept it, but basically you're not supplying a value there. And you might
Wait,
have
is this for the Power Apps developer? This, because I thought you were doing a command so that if someone on the like a customer now, a stakeholder is trying to
yeah.
update a record, and then when they click,
Oh,
that's, you
okay.
get
I
what I
see.
mean?
I
So
see where you're going. Like you want them to type in the name or something.
yes,
Okay, no. So, well, they don't. You don't normally. Power Apps allows you to do that, right? So you can just come in here, type in your name, and click on save. So there's no point trying to
right,
recreate that.
yeah, yeah,
There's no point trying to recreate that, right? And so, but the where command shines is when you want to do some background things based on the user action. So before the whole idea of commands, what we had was flow. So you will need to create a Power Automate automation, and you need to find a way to trigger that automation from the app. Then the automation will go and do that action. So say you want to say you want to, in this case we are using, maybe because we are using update and create a new record, which you can already do, right? But those are just to keep it simple. But in a lot of cases you'll be using this patch for some custom actions, for some custom background actions that you would have needed an automation to do. But since we now have patch, so in an app I've done before, where I use the patch to say something like mark as complete, right? And basically, once they click on that button, it marks the record as complete, and it does some other things. And this is just one table, but you can have multiple. So because this is Power FX, you can do multiple things, right? So I'm patching the class table. I can also patch another table at the same time. I can patch the student table also. So you see we have the student table available. You understand you can do multiple things by just the user clicking one button. So that's the value of using commands, not necessarily just to update or create a new record. Do you get that?
yeah. Thanks.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm gonna assume it's 11:05 BST, and let's have a 10 minutes break till 11:15 BST. Okay. Hi, are we back? Hello, hello, hello.
Hi. Yeah.
Okay, welcome back.
Here.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, nice. Yeah. So that's just like a quick introduction to Power FX in itself. We'll do more of that once we get into Canvas apps. But yeah. Um, so you will now know all the functions from the onset, but as you start building stuff, you will know the functions you need to complete, that action. And obviously you can always search. And these days we have a friendly assistant. At my place of work, we call it the assistant. And by that I mean ChatGPT, right? So you have our friendly assistant that can help you, figure stuff out sometimes too. Farouk.
So see the way we're able to create like a new command and have formulas in it. Is it the same
Yeah.
way when we create a custom page and like in the sense like we're embedding a Canvas app into the model-driven app? Are we able to also do formulas in those custom pages?
Yes, definitely, because the custom page is just a canvas app, right? And now, even these formulas, even though right now we see them in this interface, I'll show you another interface where you can work with your formulas. I believe I've shown us in previous classes, but since we're on this topic, so if you click on this button at the top here, it says Open Component Library. Now, what they've done with the commands is, as much as we can see them in here, behind the scenes, is actually the whole architecture of Canvas apps components that they've used to put it together. So you see when I click on Open Component Library, it takes me into this Canvas app looking experience, right? And the actual commands I've created, you see them in here as components. So behind the scenes, that's just kind of how they've put it together. Right. But so to answer your question, Farouk, so even for pages, Canvas app pages, it brings you to an interface like this too. And there you have your formulas at the top where you can write in your code. So yes, you can put in your code within your um, Canvas app, within your Power Canvas app pages for your model-driven app. So here you can see we still have that same code that we've typed in here. We have it over here, and you can see your data sources, right? So you can see by default is added in account student classes. Now, part of the advantages of using these commands is because this is like a Canvas app, so you can still add all of those data sources, all of those connectors that you would be able to add to a Canvas app. You can still add it here. So basically, you could create a command that maybe you're integrating with Salesforce, right? You could create a command that, when a user does something on your model-driven app, it sends that data to Salesforce, or it sends it somewhere, or it sends an email, right? Because you have it within a Canvas experience like this, and you can connect to, all of those your data sources. So it brings a lot of value. It brings a lot of value when you use it. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to point that out about the components library, and here you see the whole list of commands you have. All right. So let's come back into the slides, right? So we've seen the locations for the command bar. And we've seen the command bar designer, how you can add commands, how you can write in some formulas. Now, JavaScript stuff, those fall into the high code, high code areas, not low code. So that's not really covered here. And we've seen a demo of that. So let's just go to a couple of questions and we'll do Canvas. So what's the benefit of building a model-driven app? What do we think? Yeah, benefit of building a model-driven app. Oh, did they answer itself? I see that.
What is the answer?
Well, yeah, because you remember I said with model-driven apps, because you've done the models, it just brings everything together and it's kind of focused on back office operations. So like complex processes is easier to build that out in model-driven apps. And when we're talking about Canvas apps, is quite targeted at simple scenarios, right? One page applications, two-page applications, with not so many controls, just simple scenarios that Canvas app is focused on. I've worked with some clients that they, do very complex things on Canvas apps. And a lot of times things tend to break, you know, the app tends to be sluggish sometimes because we're basically trying to break the system. We're doing much more than what it was intended for, right? And it still falls into Microsoft's money-making principle, right? They give you something, but they also give you another better version where you have to pay, and which is the whole idea because Canvas app, you can do a lot of things without paying if you're using SharePoint and stuff like that, but you have to put in the sweat to make it work properly. But for model-driven app, it's more streamlined, you build much faster, but you have to pay for Dataverse. So let's look at the next one. I hope it doesn't you see, can I pause? So if I pause it, probably should not go away. So when sharing a model-driven app, which of the following statements is true? What do we think? So how do you share a model-driven app? So saying Farouk, we
E,
went through this.
D,
It's
We went
very
through this.
tricky.
Wait, what did you say, Farouk?
said D. I'm not sure.
D, yes, that's correct, actually. So remember when we did the whole Dataverse stuff, you set up your security rules, and to actually share a model-driven app, you first need to associate some security rules with the app. Then, at the point of sharing, the actual way you share it is associating those same security rules with the users. So, if the users have the security rules the app needs, then the app is shared with them, kind of implicitly. So we did that, and if you review the recordings, you should be able to see it. Okay. Let's see, the next one says, if you need to display data on the dashboard, what form type should you use? Okay, so we didn't do dashboards. Maybe after this, we'll quickly jump into that. But you can use the form type. Remember, saw the form types, and I said the card type comes in on like a smaller view, and the card type also shows up on dashboards. That's fine. Which of the following cannot be added to a quick view form? Quick view, we saw quick view.
Columns.
Well, columns is the actual data, so columns can be there. So basically, the idea of quick view is rather than the whole, if you remember when I showed us the quick view form, that's the point where the form comes up, and I think we put it in some of, we implemented it in some aspects. Let me see. Try and do. Okay, so I think students and okay, no, that's not a quick view. Which one has the quick view? So let's say, yeah. Yeah, I know we did the quick view somewhere. So, but the quick view is the one where instead of, so when you click on new, instead of taking you to a new page like this, is where the form comes out from the side. Do we remember doing that? Where a form comes out from the side here. Okay, so let me quickly do that. I'm quite sure we did, but let me do that again. So this student subject, so maybe let me do it on the student subject table. So for you to have a quick view, first of all, on the table, so this student subject table, if you go to properties, advanced options, there is the option that says leverage quick view, okay, so this quick create form if available. So the quick view, I think that comes in when you're doing the lookup. So we have it somewhere. I think I remember. So is it class? Yes, exactly. So this is the quick view form. So where you have a lookup and you select a record, then it shows some data from that record. So in this case, even though it's a form, you can have tabs. This is what we mean by tabs, right? But because in this case, we are just referencing another table, so we can have it being complex. And if we go to the actual table, I think this is coming from class. So if we come to class and we go to forms, we see the quick view form here. If you say edit, so if you say edit, now you can see we have it. It's just a single stuff. If you come to components, you see we can add sections, but we can add subgrids, but we can have tabs. So that's basically what this is asking about. So what is an editable grid? Yeah, I think since we all need to we all need to go through the recordings again. So this is an example of an editable grid down here. So if I have a record, so if I have a record, now for the editable grid, I can come in here and make changes directly. So for it to be here, it means we covered it. So we have to review the recordings. So editable grids, you can edit it directly here. By default, the default grid is not an editable grid. So if I come back into the app, let's see classes. So this is a class form. So I'm kind of moving fast because we've covered it already. But what have I done here? I've just come into the class form, right? So let's say I want to add an editable, well, let's start with a normal subgrid. So there are two ways you can display relational data within your form. You can use a subgrid or you can use an editable grid. So subgrid is the normal one. And if with show related records being ticked, if we come in here and we say, so this is class, let's say we want to see all the students within that class. So for the related record, we'll be choosing the class, the relationship that has to do with class, and we just click on done. So if I publish this now, okay, and where's the app open? So let me refresh the app here. and I go to class, choose a class. Now I can see the students that are within that class. This is the subgrid. So, but where editable grid comes into play is, so if you look at this now and compare it with this other one we have for students, right? You see, in this case, I can make edits straight away here if I want. And that saves. Unlike the normal subgrid, where you can make edits directly. So if I want to edit it, I have to select this, then click on edit. And it takes me in here where I can make an edit. Do we see the difference between the two? Editable grid and subgrid.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if you still have like queries around that, you can let me know. And you can also review the recordings. Okay. So let's see. And I think, okay, so which view should you edit to show columns when the user select the related tab in the model-driven form? So we showed this even today. Associated, yes, that's good. All right. And okay, yep. And that is that. So let me come back in here and let's just look at forms in model-driven apps. Did I say forms dashboards? Okay, so I'm going to go back into that same solution. Go into my model-driven app. Well, so let's not go into the model-driven app. So within here, within your solution, there are different things you can create. There's something called, so if you come into dashboard, we have different options for the types of dashboard you can create. You can create a 2-column overview, 3-column overview, 3-column overview, 4-column overview, Power BI embedded. So depending on the kind of dashboard you're trying to visualize, that's going to determine what choice you make over there. So I just chose the 2-column overview, and that is coming up. Okay. So now this takes you over here. So let me just call this test dashboard. So this is the normal dashboard for model-driven apps. If you want something more fanciful, you'll probably be going for a Power BI embedded dashboard, right? That's where somebody does a dashboard or a report and you can embed it. You can embed it within your solution, or you can show it from within your app, basically. But before all of that, there was the whole idea of dashboards within Dataverse itself. So these are, okay, so these are different types of data you can show on your dashboard. So you can show a chart. So I think we created a chart. So let me try and find one. So let's see, what's our table? If I say students, okay, I have one there. Right, so this is going to show up on the dashboard within the app. So some other types, you can show a list. A list is just like the actual records. So maybe I want to see, I also want to see a list of the students. And you could have multiple views. So maybe on this dashboard, I want to see students this month. When we were talking about views, we saw how you can create a custom view that has some filters on it, right? So when you're thinking about designing your dashboard, you might be creating some custom views. Because the whole idea of dashboard is you want somebody to just look at the dashboard at a glance and see the data he needs, right? And so that he can make informed decisions, right? So maybe, this person needs to always see like the students that have been added this month, right? Maybe it's part of his KPI or something. So you want them to be able to keep track of that. So we've created this custom view previously, and you can just set that as a component for your dashboard, right? And at that point, once there's data, it's going to show up there. There are other things you can do. Assistance comes into play when you're for what's it called? It comes into play for dynamic stuff. You can put an iframe. We saw iframe in when we were doing model-driven apps too. So it's still the same thing where you just put in like a web link and it displays whatever is in that web link. And web resources, those are stuff that you can actually upload code. So anywhere you see web resource in Dataverse, it's just talking about stuff like JavaScript code that you can upload to display some data. So let me do a save.
So this dashboard, like we have created the lists and the charts, where do they appear on the app? I know we just created new dashboard.
Yes, we're going to do that. We're going to go there now. So here we've just created it, and let's see. Let's go back into the app. So when it comes to dashboard, I always like to add them first before coming in here. Because it kind of streamlines your options. So if you want to add a dashboard, you can come over. So just like we did for the Canvas app pages, you can come over to add page and you see dashboard as one of the options. So once you click on that, you see different options. So by default, you see it goes into system dashboard. And this is the test dashboard we just created, if you remember.
Yeah.
So that shows up as an option. And you can also see some other types. So for example, the Power BI one. Okay, so this shows up as, oh yeah. So because I also added a Power BI one, right? Which
Yeah.
was this test TP. So I have the option because I've done some Power BI stuff before in this environment. So I was able to easily add that. But for you, you might not see any option because you don't have any Power BI visualization, right? So if I click on add now it's showing me, so let's see. Okay, so if I click on play, let me publish. I can click on play. It's not come yet. Let me refresh. Okay, so I can see the dashboard. And basically, so system dashboards. Why am I not seeing it here? All of these are dynamic stuff.
So, quick question,
Yeah.
Kayode. So this is a dashboard from Dataverse, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
we have
I've
gone.
done two. I've done two. So I've added one from Power BI and I've added one from Dataverse. So the one from Dataverse you should be able to do because we're in Dataverse, but the one from Power BI, I have that because I've done some Power BI stuff before.
Okay. Would it be possible to create a dashboard with multiple data sources from, let's say, some from Dataverse, some from Power BI, some from other external or
Yeah,
third-party
yeah.
sources?
So in that case, that would be a Power BI one, because from Power BI you can still connect to Dataverse. So you could create all of that on Power BI, then embed it within your model-driven app.
Okay, and you can connect to other sources as well that are external to Microsoft?
From Power BI, yes, you can do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But for the Dataverse one, it's only Dataverse stuff.
Are there any limitations on the number of sources of data that you can add?
In Power BI, no limitation. But for
Okay.
Dataverse, it's just Dataverse data.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm still going to double check on this because I'm not seeing the dashboards that I've added here. But yeah, I'll double check on that. It's supposed to show up as one of the options here. Okay, so but basically that's the idea of creating dashboards. You just want to add the views that are relevant to the people. And what will make it valuable is if you have some pre-filtered views so that they can see some form of analytical data, like based on the kind of information they want to see. So that's where we're going to stop the model driven, and we'll take a little breather and go into Canvas, because I feel like Canvas is very exciting. I'm sure a lot of us have been looking forward to Canvas, to be honest. Okay. So I'm trying to see how we can get you involved, Malika. So do we do a new scenario? Canvas. Okay, let's start with the material anyway. Tosin, are you here already? But it's not time yet. Okay, maybe Tosin is not here yet. Are we ready to go into Canvas? Or you want a 5 minutes? You want a 5 minutes break?
5 minutes break.
5 minutes break, okay. So let's just use that for a reset. So 5 minutes is kind of like 7 minutes because it's 43 here. So we could come back by, that's 44 already. That's 50. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
11.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, 11:50.
All right.
Okay, are you back?
Yep.
Right. Tosin, are you back? How about Malika? Malika, are you back? Okay. So yeah, we'll continue. I think everyone is
I'm
gonna
back.
like. Okay, great. Okay. So we're going to start looking at Canvas apps. I would say Canvas apps is really exciting, and personally, I've loved Canvas app for a long time, but quite recently, I think I've been favoring model-driven apps more, because of how quickly you get stuff done and less tendency for things to break on the long run. But Canvas apps is quite exciting because you can have custom UIs and custom experiences. Yeah, it's more customizable if we put it that way. And but the downside is you have a lot of responsibility in terms of putting the layout of the app together, in terms of putting the logic into the application. As you saw in model-driven apps, once you just put all the data sources, it creates the layout for you. It adds all of those buttons, all those commands by default. When you click on one, a record is created. When you can create a record, you can update a record. You get all of that out of the box. But in Canvas app, if a record is being created, you have written the code to make that happen. If a record is deleted, you have written the code to make that happen. So nothing comes in. It just basically starts with a blank canvas, and you can now start putting in your customization. Okay. So in this learning path, we are going to look at, how do you create Canvas apps? I was telling some group of students recently that there are three components that, make up your app. You have the layout, the UI, you have the logic. So you have the logic, you have the controls. So all of those things come together and they make up your Canvas app. So in this module, we'll look at the, introduction to Canvas apps, how you can customize Canvas apps, how do you do navigation? Because in a lot of real world apps, you don't just have one screen, right? You have multiple screens. So how can you navigate in between those screens? Power effects formulas. We saw the patch formula, right? Which is one of the fundamental ones because a lot of applications deal with data. So you need to know the formulas to manage data, and patch is one of the main formulas when it comes to, adding data, updating data. So we've kind of talked about that. We'll still look at it and some other ways you can also manage data using your code. We'll also look at error handling, which is important. In the early days of my development, I didn't used to do a lot of error handling, but it's quite important because when something goes wrong, as a developer, you want to know. So you want to log errors, you want to handle errors. In Power Apps, if something goes wrong, it shows the ugly red banner on the screen. You might want to do something more customized so that your users don't just feel like your app is just breaking all the time. So sometimes you even want to suppress some errors because maybe it's not an error, but Power Apps is interpreting it as an error. So we'll see stuff you can do around error handling, and we'll see how you can connect to data sources. And here it talks about Power Apps cards, but we're not going to talk about that because it is now deprecated. So from August, Power Apps will stop supporting cards. So there's no point talking about it. Okay. So Well, want to believe we've seen Canvas apps before. So based on what you've seen, can you just tell me what a Canvas app is? So basically, maybe what you've seen, what you've heard, or have you been exposed to Canvas app in any way?
Canvas app
Yeah.
basically allows, like, the way I look at it, allows flexibility in terms of user interface compared to model-driven apps. You
Yeah.
can customize, design your app based on your preference. So that's how I look at it, like a blank sheet, and you're just allowed to draw on it and
Mm.
if you like on it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for that, Malika. You're on mute. I'm not sure if you're speaking. Okay. Then Toasting, I don't think he's back yet too. All right. So thanks for that for so yeah, when you're talking about Canvas apps, in terms of the value, we've said it that, it gives that customized experience. Um, the kind of applications you should build technically in Canvas apps are simple applications, right? As I've said. So now, Canvas Apps is a suite of app services, connectors, and data platform that provides you with an opportunity to build custom business apps for your business needs. You can build apps using the skills that you already have. Where they say that, they're talking about stuff like, your knowledge of Excel formulas, because Power FX, in terms of the structure, is quite close to the formulas in Excel, though not a lot of people know how to write formulas in Excel anyway. But if you have that knowledge, it can be quite handy in understanding how, PowerFX function works. And another value of the Canvas apps, as we've said also, is your ability to connect to multiple data sources, right? So there's really no limit to the data sources you can connect to, because even if it is a custom API, you can still create a custom connector and connect to that from within your Canvas apps. So there's literally no data source you can't use with your Canvas app. So even if it's SQL, even if it's no SQL, whatever the data source is, you can get it to work with your Canvas app, which is quite nice. So it opens up that opportunity. And when you are able to connect multiple data sources, it gives an additional value of you being able to centralize your processes. So you can, from a single app, do things that affect multiple processes, multiple data sources, because you're able to connect all of them together, and you can write functions that affect multiple data sources at the same time. So that's very valuable. And yes, you can share your apps with your colleagues. Now, talking about sharing, Power Apps generally, right? Well, apart from Power Pages, which is for external users, but Power Canvas apps, model-driven apps, they are for internal users within your organization. And when I say internal users, so the staff of your organization, people in your organization's tenant, and guest users can also use them anyway. So guest users are users that are in another tenant but have been added to your Azure Entra ID, and they are kind of users on your organization, even though they are guest users, but they are actual users, and you would still need to give them licenses to use Dataverse or whatever. So but basically they are focused on internal users. So you wouldn't build an app on Power Apps and, you know, put it on Play Store, for example, or Apple Store, right? Because they are internal facing applications. So that's something that is good to know. In the early days, I was quite excited about Power Apps, and I was really hoping I'll be able to build some custom apps that I could put on Play Store. But yeah, that's not what it's for. It's mainly for business applications. So that's good to understand early on. Any questions on that so far?
Not at the moment.
Okay. So we have a couple of things a couple of tools or well services or whatever that we that that is involved in building an app, right? So we have the Power Apps Maker portal. So that's when you go to make.powerapps.com, right? That's the Power Apps Maker portal. Then we have the Power Apps Studio, which is the where you build Power Apps. So if I come over here to the Power Apps Maker portal and I say, okay, I want to create an app, and I say new app, let me say start with the page design, blank canvas. Now it's taking me into Power Apps Studio. So Power Apps Studio is the actual interface where you build your app. We have Power Apps Mobile, which allows you to run your Power Apps on your mobile phone. So instead of building an app and putting it on Play Store or putting it on Apple Store, what you are going to do is you will get your users to install the Power Apps mobile app. Now, once they install the Power Apps mobile app from Apple Store or Play Store, then they can sign into their organization and use the app from there. So technically, you can still build mobile apps with Power Apps. It's just that, they have to open up the app from within the Power Apps mobile app. Okay. There's this thing that Power Apps introduced at some point. I don't know. I don't think they're investing so much in it, but that would have given the opportunity for you to. So let me see if I have a Canvas app here. So this is a Canvas app. So there's something they called Wrap. You might want to check it out. Wrap. So the idea of this wrap, I don't even know what I can call it, but wrap basically. The idea of this wrap is that you'll be able to turn your Canvas app into a native mobile app for Android and iOS. So, which is, contrary to what I just said, that you can't really have it as a native app that you install on Android and iOS. So technically with this wrap is possible, but it involves a lot of high code knowledge. It's not really a low code thing. So maybe that's why I've not played with it. But it's technically possible. I'll be interested to see someone try it out. So technically it's possible, but I've not heard Microsoft talk so much about it. So I won't be surprised if they come tomorrow and they say they are no longer supporting it. But that's good to know. But alternatively, you can get users to install the Power Apps mobile app, and once they sign in, they are able to use their app from there. Then we have the Power Platform Admin Center, which we saw, that allows you to manage your, environments, your settings, policies, and stuff like that. Are we on track? I want
For
to
the
know who is
mobile
here. Yeah,
for the
go on.
mobile app side of things,
Yeah.
and they have to go on App Store and download the Microsoft's app on Power Platform app on its own. Yeah,
Yes.
not
So it's called Power Apps. So
okay.
if you go on your iOS store or your Play Store and you
Yeah,
search for Power App, so you will see it as a mobile app. So if you install that mobile app, yes, you'll be able, and you sign into your organization, you'll be able to run apps that have been built for your organization.
because Canvas apps you can run on the mobile app or also model-driven apps.
That's a good question. So within model-driven apps, I think is a different app for model-driven app. I've not used the model-driven app on mobile before, but the classic Power App one, let me just quickly check since I have some model-driven apps. Um, I would imagine that it's just the Canvas apps because that's all I've used.
Yeah, maybe.
But I know for model-driven apps. So if I open up a model-driven app supports mobile environment. Oh, school app. So yes, the model-driven app shows up. This is my first time I've used the model-driven app on the Power Apps app, mobile app. Well, yes. Thanks for that question. Yes, you can use both Canvas apps and model-driven apps from that same Power Apps
Wow.
app.
Okay.
And the good thing about model-driven app again is responsive by default. So in Canvas app, you have to make it responsive. But in model-driven app, by default, is responsive. So it's quite interesting looking at this, this school app that we're building. And I'm basically using it on the mobile app and everything that's adjusted properly. And it's very responsive. That's quite nice.
Another question, in real life organizations, maybe like some of your clients that you have experienced, do you think many people actually use the mobile app? Maybe there is an app for like recruitment or something. Do you think maybe HR personnel actually use the Power App apps, or most people just prefer their computers?
That's a good question. So it depends on the context. Now, in a lot of organization, they have all these Intune and stuff like that, that if you have a company app on your phone, then you need to enroll. A lot of people like to avoid stuff like that. It's because it's more like saying you're signing your phone to the company and the company can maybe read data from your phone or stuff like that. A lot of people don't like that, right? So that's one reason why people may not use the application. But I've worked in an organization where we built a staff sign-in application, and that was a mobile facing app. It had a desktop. It was responsive mostly anyway, but you could have it on your phone, and once you get into the office or you're getting into the office, you could sign in on your phone. You just click a button and you sign in, right? Instead of you having to, go ahead and start, maybe queuing up for the sign in, wherever. So we built that, and that was, I think most of the users were on mobile for that.
Okay.
So
Cool.
it depends on the context. And there are a lot of apps I build, and earlier on, when scoping it, we asked that, okay, is mobile relevant? And they just upfront say no. Because especially with Canvas apps, is extra efforts to make it responsive. So if you can avoid that extra effort, that's going to save time. You get. So if the users are going to be on desktop, there's no point trying to get a mobile view out. So earlier on, it's good to ask those questions to figure out, okay, are the users going to be mobile primarily? If it's mobile primarily, then just do mobile phone view straight away, right? There's no point making it responsive if all the users are going to be on mobile. But if they would need both, you now have to start thinking of the efforts required to make it responsive. Okay.
Okay.
So where were we? Are we on the slide? So let's see. Then come back in here. Did I stop the presentation? Interesting. Let's just start from here. So if you're building an app, you start with the Maker portal. And the Maker portal, I think by now we are familiar with it, right? So that's kind of the starting point. And I find myself a lot of times when I start my day at work, just out of muscle memory, if I have a couple of tabs, I close them out. Because I always like to start afresh. Then I just type in M on my browser and enter. Because obviously my browser knows that M means makeuppowerapps.com. So this is where I start my day a lot of times. So because this from here you can access everywhere. And sometimes if I need to go to SharePoint, I just click on this hamburger Well, this is not the hamburger, right? I've forgotten what this is called. It's probably hamburger actually. I can't remember. So, but just click on this one and just go to SharePoint and I think another place I like to go when I start up my day is Outlook. I just keep those three and I know my day is starting. Okay. So what else? What else? What else? Okay, yeah. So we start in the Power App Studio. Oh no, we start in the Maker portal and we go into the Power App Studio. So the Power App Studio is where you get to build your apps. And let me just open up the Power App Studio here. So talking about a scenario that we should follow for Canvas app, because ideally I would have wanted us to maintain the school, but since some people have not caught up to that, so we can do something else. I had some ideas before, but I can't even remember them right now. So, but I wish everyone was here. Malika, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. Tosin, I don't think Tosin is back. Tosin, are you here? No, maybe not. Okay. All right, so let's do a new solution. So let's go to make.powerapps.com. And so let's do a simple feedback form. To keep it simple, then over time we do more complex stuff, right? So to keep it simple, let's do a feedback form on Power App.
Okay.
So from make.powerapps.com, you can click on solutions, right? So while on the solutions tab, if you click on new solution, we can do, so let's just call feedback form solution. Okay. So Malika, are you on track? If I'm too fast, let me know.
Okay. Are we expected to do this while you do it?
Yes,
Like I
yes,
do, you do, we do.
yes. So can you double check if you have your environment already? You can share your screen. Let me see what you see. So if you go
Yeah.
to make.powerapps.com.
Okay, it's not working.
Let's share your screen. Let me see. Let's
Sure.
see. That's going to delegate to. I can try and send you the link to see if that works.
Entire screen. Share. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet. Yes, it's coming up. Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay.
So it says, sorry, you need to sign up. You can access Power Apps. Okay, so not the NOB app. So just say, okay, no BAP tenant. Try again. Just say make.powerapps.com. So try that link I put in the chat. It looks like you're on just one screen, right?
Yes. I'll have to get another one soon.
Yeah, it's quite handy. So
Yeah.
let me see. And you were able to access this before, right?
The first time, a couple weeks ago. Yes.
Okay.
So, do I need to sign into Microsoft first? How or
You know what? Let me give you another account. This one still looks to be active. I hope no one is on it. Doesn't look like anyone is on it. So yeah, just give me a few seconds.
okay.
So delegate 4. So on WhatsApp, I'll send you some other details.
Okay.
And let's hope this works.
So do I need to log into Microsoft first?
Yes. So you can do. I always like to do a new browser profile and sign in using those
But
details.
I'm already logged into Delegate too. I don't know why.
Yeah, I know. It's
Log
kind of
out?
complaining. Yeah, so log out of Delegate 2, then log
Okay.
in with this one.
Oh, let me share my screen again. Where is it? Here. Entire screen. Yeah. What was it again?
I
Sorry.
think it's for.
Okay.
At xofafrica.com. Then, yeah.
And
Okay,
authenticate.
so it's asking for authenticator. Let me see if I can pick it up from here. It's not coming up here. Delegate 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So should I add this account to my authenticator app?
So it looks like it's set up for somebody already. Because I have not gotten the notification here.
Okay.
Delegate. So let try delegate 7. As I can see delegate 7 in my authenticator here. You have so many delegates now. So still the same pattern, but it's going to be 7. Okay.
All right, this one works.
Yeah, so yeah, you could do the power up stuff here.
Can I go to apps here and power apps?
Yep. So let's see if that works. Does it still? It's still, yeah.
Oh,
why are you doing this?
you can access power apps using a Microsoft account after you have at least one.
Delegate 7. Okay, same thing. Delegate 7 is not, the environment is not more active after you have at least one license. Okay, let me look into this and try and. No, everyone had licenses before, but let me check. Delegate 7.
Okay.
Licenses. Farouk, sorry for.
No, it's fine.
Taking your time. Yeah, there's power ups here. No, could this be?
Fine.
Yeah.
Let me see if this works next.
Because it will be valuable if you can follow along.
Let me see. So I had scan this QR code. Use the app to scan this QR code.
So let me try it on my end here. So I'm also testing out another account here.
Okay, I'm also trying to figure out if I can create one too.
Yeah.
See if it works. Apps, all apps, power apps. Still not working. That's so weird. Do I need to clear my, what do you call it? Clear my cache or something
Like
like history?
it feels like it's the actual account itself that's been disabled. Though from my end here, there's a Power Apps license attached to it, but it seems to say there's not. Okay, so I'm able to log into Delegate 8, so try Delegate 8.
Okay. Boy. Delegate 8. Oh, 8 EIGHT. I think I put the number 8. All right. Okay. Let me see if I can access Power Apps now. I'm in. I've logged in successfully.
Okay.
Power App. Yeah, I really need a double screen. No, it's not. It says the same thing. You can access Power Apps after you have at least one license.
That's Delegate 8.
Yes.
Okay, so it seems something's wrong on your end because I was able to log into that here.
So do you think I should restart my
Yeah,
computer?
well, that's not a bad idea. You can also try Incognito.
Okay.
Then you can also clear your is it cache or cache? Yeah, cache.
Yeah.
So all of
Mhm.
those
To
stuff.
clear my okay. How do I clear the cache without?
Um, it's kind of like a multi-step stuff.
Okay.
Um, maybe if you go to your browser settings, what browser are you using?
I'm using Microsoft Edge. So settings cache.
Yeah, if you search, that's what I used to do. I just go to settings and search for cache.
Yeah. Manage files. Freeze up. Clear browsing data upload. Choose what to clear. Okay. Clear now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's try this again. All right. One more time. Did this yes. Apps. Power apps.
Yeah, you can share your screen too.
Sure. Oh, it's working now.
Okay,
Interesting.
yeah. Nice.
Why does that happen?
Well,
Well, how does the cache?
nobody knows. Well,
Okay.
I think Power works a lot based on cache. So sometimes if the file is if it's corrupted or something, I don't know. There are times that yeah, that solves some issues, especially when stuff are unexplained.
Okay.
Sometimes if you try incognito, so incognito is kind of like clearing the cache because it starts a new session without any cache. So if it works in incognito, then you know that if you clear the cache, it should work. So, but
Okay.
yeah, cool.
All right. Can you see my
So
screen?
yeah, so where you see environment at the top, if you switch that into delegate eight environments, so delegate eight developer environment, yeah. So that's where you want to be when
Mhm.
working stuff.
Okay.
All right. Okay,
Delegate.
cool. Still it's gonna be difficult since you're just on one screen. But let's see how it goes.
Okay. Should I stop sharing now?
Yes, I'll go back to sharing. So Farouk, yeah, so sorry for taking your time. Okay, are we on track?
Yep.
Okay. What was I trying to do just now? Oh yeah, I was trying to get my browser back. All right, so I said we're doing a scenario for our feedback form. So that's a quite straightforward solution, but it's going to help us test the idea of, you know, working with data, adding data, and things like that. So to start, I'm going to be saying it out with, or like I'll be saying out what I'm doing in case that helps with the single screen issue. So if you start from make.powerapps.com, so from the Power Apps Maker portal, on the left here, you see solutions. So if you click on solutions, so we've covered solutions in the past and the value they bring. So you see that in the previous classes. Now, what we want to do is we want to click on new solution in order for us to create a new solution. And here I'm going to call this feedback form solution. Okay. And here where it says publisher, in this case, we have created a publisher called Veldarr Solutions, right? So in the previous class, you'll see how to create a publisher. It's just quite straightforward. If you click on new, you type in all of those details, then you see it as an option. So you can either do that, click on new publisher, type in all these details. You can give it whatever name you want, or you choose one of these default ones. Then at that point, we can just click on create, and that creates a solution. So a solution is like a container where you pack in all the components that your app needs or that your process needs or that your solution needs. Okay.
So I see that the display name is separate from the actual name.
Yes. Yes.
So
So
wow.
display name is what displays, then the actual name is kind of the internal name. Usually it's still this display name, but if you add any spaces in your display name, it's going to take it out for the actual name. So a lot of times once you type in the display name, it should automatically populate the actual name. If it doesn't, you could just put the same thing without spaces.
Okay.
Okay, so you let us know once you have the solution. Farouk, are you on track?
Yes, we have the feedback from solution.
Okay, so
It's looking like, okay.
what's that?
Just, it's looking like when you want to create, okay, we create a solution both for a model-driven and a Canvas app. Yeah.
Yes. So, and a solution can have both model-driven and Canvas apps, as well as all these things.
Yeah.
So all these things, right? And you see, there's so much more, and there's so much more. So all of these things can be added into a solution.
For prefix, what are we putting as the publisher's prefix? Does it matter?
So no,
It
it doesn't really matter. So in our case, we have VLS because it's Veldarr Solutions. So it can just be a play on the actual name of the publisher. Just like, well, yeah, anything goes really.
Okay, so this is giving me an error code.
Okay, can you share your screen?
Yes, and share. Wait a minute. Where is it? Okay, 1 second. Okay.
Okay, it's coming up. So yeah, so it says invalid.
So, yes, I know you said we can put whatever. So I kind of want to get in the habit of putting what I would put in my
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
Because if I'm tasked to create something, then I would want it to,
Yeah.
be in the container of program management. Why invalid characters specified to publisher unique
Oh,
name?
okay. So let me see the publisher name. So if you close that. Yeah, so remember I said for the actual name, you take out the spaces. So that's what it's complaining about.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. So it should be fine now.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Create form feedback form solution. Create version 1. Okay. So, okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Then just another tip when it comes to the publishers. I noticed you had like program as the publisher. That's okay, it's acceptable. But a lot of times we tend to use maybe like 2 letters or 3 letters
For
because
publisher.
because every column you create is going to have that prefix. So you don't want that to be too long,
Oh. So it
else
should have
the
been like
internal name. Yeah, so
okay.
maybe PM or PMO or something like
Can
that.
I change it after I've created it?
I wouldn't say so. It might be possible. I've not tried to do that before.
So
Well,
if I put
obviously you can create a new one, but it's not a bother. It's just like a tip in terms of next
right.
time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let me share my screen. And over here, I have the feedback form solution. And I always like to start with data. So we're going to create a table to collect the feedback, right? So we'll within your solution. So do you have this open, Malika, this way? You can see a blank solution.
Let me check right now. Yes, I do.
Okay, cool. All right. So now we're going to create a table, and maybe let's just call it form feedback. So over here, I'll say tables. So a solution, as you can kind of see from this layout, you can have multiple stuff. So you can have agents, which is like Copilot stuff. You can have apps. You can have cards. This is going away. You can have cloud flows, which is Power Automate stuff. Data workspaces, possibly Power BI stuff, and you can have tables within your solution. And as I said, you can have all of this other stuff too within your solution, right? So it's just going to give you a count of how many of those things you have. So well, to add a table, you could come over to the top here and say new table. And these are different ways you can create a table. This was the classic way. So if you are used to the classic experience, this was a classic way of doing this. But this is the new way. So let's just go with the new way. So if you come new table, then you can choose tables. And that should bring this up. So do we have the screen?
Yes, we do. But I hope they don't cancel the classic one. Because I'm not gonna lie, this new one, I like the classic one. It's just straight to the point.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get used to this new one, to be fair. But I've seen the value of the new one because
Really?
you can create multiple tables within the same view. But to do that with the classic is like multiple clicking everywhere. But here you can create multiple tables within the same view. You can create the relationships directly within the same view. So I feel like it's quite valuable.
It's the way forward. You have to adapt.
Yeah. So I'm getting used to it. So there are different options that it gives you here. All good options, to be fair. So you can do a describe with Copilot where you tell Copilot maybe the kind of data you want to collect, and Copilot creates the table for you. You still have control, so which is good. Or say you have an existing SharePoint list and you want to turn that into a dataverse table. So you can do that. You just need to connect to the list. If you have some Excel file, so a lot of times, we're trying to automate Excel, maybe move some processes away from being Excel based to being app based, right? So if there's like that kind of Excel file, you can bring it in here and to create a dataverse table based on that Excel file. And it's going to also import that data as part of that action. So that's quite smart and useful. So it doesn't just create the table in that case, it also imports the data for you into that table. Or you could start from blank. I'm tempted to either start with Copilot or start from blank. But let me use start from blank so that we see how we can get control over it. But basically, when you start from Copilot, it brings you here still, but it will have done a lot of the work for you. So here I've started from blank. Do we all have this view already before I proceed?
Almost.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hope I'm not jumping the gun asking this question, but
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, for Canvas apps,
Yeah.
I know there's like a connector where we can connect to external sources like maybe Excel, SharePoint. What's the point of creating? I see the point of creating a table for model-driven apps. Okay.
Yeah.
But what's the point of creating a table for Canvas app? What's the logic behind it? How does it work?
That's a good question. If I understand what you're trying to say, but I will answer based on what I think you're trying to say. So you're saying, okay, if we have an Excel file, why bother creating a dataverse table from the Excel
Yeah.
file, since we can already connect
Correct.
Power Apps to that Excel
Yes.
file, for example. Now, Excel has a couple of limitations when it comes to working with Power Apps. Now, if an Excel file is a data source for a Power App,
Yeah.
multiple people cannot save data at the same time. It's going to try an error because
Okay.
Excel is not a database.
Yeah.
So if it's an app that people need to submit data frequently, they need to fetch data frequently, they need to do CRUD operations very frequently on, you will
Yeah.
run into issues if you use Excel as a data source
Okay.
because it's not a database. So like it's sometimes if the Excel file is open, so if somebody has the Excel file open on their browser and
Yeah.
another person tries to save data using the app, it's not going to work. So
Awesome.
it will
Okay.
try an error.
Makes
So you see
sense.
how that quickly can cause problems. So, but Excel, you might still connect to Excel if it's reference data. So maybe a list of something,
Yeah.
right? You can use Excel there. That just gives me an idea because there are a couple of apps I've built and we want to give the admins ability to manage the data, right? Now that I think of it, maybe some of those things, instead of putting them on SharePoint, well, which is kind of like the same thing anyway, but instead of putting them on SharePoint, maybe I could have just put them in Excel, right? And just use it as reference data. A lot of people are confident with Excel. So it will be easy for them to, make changes to that from within Excel. So yeah, that's a possibility. So if it's just reference data, meaning they are not submitting data to it, they're just retrieving data. Excel is happy with that, no issues there. But maybe you may even run into issues if it's like a lot of data. So, but if it's like 100, 200, 500, you might be fine. But once you start getting more, you might run into issues. So do you get? So in such a case, you can load that data into a Dataverse table and you get all of the advantages of Dataverse. So Dataverse is not just a database. It has a lot of other advantages like security, blah, blah, blah. All of those things you will get from Excel. Do you get?
Makes sense. Makes
So those
sense.
are some reasons why. So for example, if you look at SharePoint is quite okay, but you don't have all of the security stuff you
Mm,
get from Dataverse, and you
yeah.
have to do a lot of hanky panky just to get it to work well.
Yeah.
But you can avoid all of that if you use Dataverse. So those are
Okay.
some reasons why you want to create a table based on
Oh,
create a Dataverse table based on those other stuff.
makes sense.
All
Just
right.
because I've never seen, I think from like maybe when you're trying to learn or watching tutorials, people build
Yeah, using
Canvas app
Excel.
using they use Excel, use SharePoint, but they don't use
Yeah,
data.
yeah. It's just to keep it simple, to be
Yeah.
honest. But I noticed with all of this Copilot stuff, Dataverse setup is now quite simple because it just does a lot of magic for you. So it's quite simple to do. It didn't used to be as straightforward as this before. That's why people generally use Excel when they are trying to
Okay.
teach people fresh.
Yeah.
But Excel has never been the right data source to use.
Makes sense. Okay.
So yeah, okay. So do we all have this now?
Let me see. Yes.
Okay. All right. So it brings up the table and we can start making changes. So for example, if you want to give this a name, you can double click on this and say, so what's the name of the table? Let me just call it feedback table. Feedback table. Now, the nice thing about this is at this point, the table is not even created yet. This is just us setting it up. So if you want to make changes, you want to do all of those things, can still do them, right? So even when Copilot, creates something for you, it's not final until you click on save and exit. So you can still make changes based on whatever Copilot comes up with. So right here, we've created the name of the table. We've given it a name. If you want to,
It doesn't
yeah,
work for me. It doesn't allow me to change the name of the table.
if you double click or
Same.
triple click,
Yeah,
that's
I'm unable to
interesting.
like change the name.
Okay, well, can you share your screen?
Me or Farouk?
Well, yeah, Malika, you can. Then why does it allow me?
Oh no.
To be fair, I know I had that issue in the early days, but I suspected it was a user issue later on. So if you click on table 1, no, from the top view there, then just click. So where you see table 1, there, just click, like triple click or four click. Aha, that's it. So you can change it. So if you start typing there, it should allow you to type.
Okay, it's
So
working now.
I
I
call
have
the
to click
feedback
it
table.
about
Okay. Yeah.
4
Yeah, I don't think it's double
times.
click, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's almost like a triple click or
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
okay. So Farouk, does it work for you too?
Yeah, it's working now.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
All right. So let me share my screen again. So that's there. Now, if you want to add more columns, what you can do is if you click on these view options, you can click on view data, and that brings this one down. It brings this one. So first off, what we can do with this, what I like to do with this primary name column is I like to just call it SN in some cases. For some tables, name is fine. But in this case, because it's not like the feedback has a name, or maybe it does, we could call this title. I think feedbacks do have title. So let's call this title. Single line of text is fine. Required is okay. So we can just say update. Right. So this is the primary name column. If you want more columns, or let me give us time to do this. So have we renamed this first column to title? So to do that, you click on this chevron and edit, then change the name to title. So the feedback has a title. Are we on track with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm going to add a new column and say feedback text. Let's call it that. So let's say feedback text. And for the data type, we want multi-line this time. So when we come to text, all of this has single line. At the bottom here, we have multiple lines of text. So let's go for that. Multiple lines of text. Okay, so make sure the data type is multiple lines of text. And click on save. Well, maybe we want to make that required too.
Are we able to edit it?
Yes, you can click on edit and make changes.
Required.
Yep.
It's
I think I missed something. I have
Okay.
title, but I don't have feedback text.
Yeah, so you can add a new column here. So you say new column,
Okay. That
give
has
it a name.
that
What?
bottom part of the screen is no longer there for me.
Oh, yeah, so you can get it back by coming here, then view options.
Coming where? I'm sorry, because I'm on one screen. I keep clicking.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a screen today.
Okay,
Had
that's
I
awesome
known, I
then.
would have gotten one yesterday.
Yeah, it's very handy. Tosi also had the same issue, but I think he's figured it out now.
So I
So you have it here, view options, then it comes back up.
view data.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for do I
So
select
add the new
column?
so add the new row. So you just say new column, yeah. Then you can give it a name. And when it comes to data type, you want multi-lines of text.
Feedback text. Multiple lines. Multiple. Oh no, what just happened? Okay, feedback text. Multiple.
Is it for the data type?
Yes.
So you click on this chevron, then where you see text, you go into that, then you see these options.
Okay.
Yeah, you just choose the plain text on that multiple lines of text.
Gotcha. And we're making this required or no?
Yes, required.
Okay.
Okay. And let's just so what should we do here? Let's just let's have another column and just say submitter email. Submitter email. So this one should not be required. So the submitter email is not required. And single line of text.
I feel like I would want that to be required though.
So
No.
this is what I'm thinking. I want to add another column for submission type. So I want to have like an anonymous type. So if it is anonymous, then we are not going to save the email.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to, so that we can see different coding
Right.
coding ideas. So we'll see how we can put in logic, conditional stuff.
Right.
So yep, submit our email. So not required. Then we can say that's submit our email. What else? Submission type. So submission type. The data type for submission type is choice. So submission type, the data type is choice. And for the label, I'll just say anonymous. What's the opposite of anonymous? Non-anonymous. Let me ask ChatGPT.
Choice.
Oh, identified, named, known, acknowledged, recognized. None of this looks right. I'll just say non-anonymous.
Okay, that works, right?
Well, sorry. I'm just going to say identified. Because that's what ChatGPT says. So yeah, with choices, you have the option to allow multiple selections, but in our case, we are not. But it's good to know that that's possible.
Would this be
And you
required?
can, yes. And with choices, you have the option to set a default choice, but in our case, we are not. Now just click on save. Okay.
So that's a table.
All right. So when working with Canvas apps, especially, I like to have some sample data in because it makes you see whether things are working. So we'll just add the sample data. This is another reason why I like this view, because you can just add data straight away from this view. So I'm just going to say, good job. You have done a great job. And I'll put this as anonymous. Okay. If you want to add more rows, you just click on this enter text and you just add them. But here, I'm happy with just one row. Well, let me add another one that has email. Okay. Never again. You've lost a customer. Customer@gmail.com. Identified. Okay. So at this point, I'm happy with the table. So just a little bit aside, Farouk, this is what I was saying about this view that I like. If you want a new table, you can literally just come in here and, add a new table. You can still do it based on SharePoint. You can still do it based on Copilot. So you can do all of that from within this view. So basically, your whole ERD, you can just do it straight away on a single view.
See what
which
that's
is, yeah. They're trying to
you,
streamline it.
When you say ERD, what is that acronym?
So your entity relationship diagram. So say we have multiple tables. I don't know what other table can be relevant here. Okay, so since we have customers, so maybe we have a list of customers. So if I come here and I say, which one should I use? Add columns and data. So you can see that creates another table. I can come here and say this is a table to store our customers. So maybe we can do this to just make it a little bit more complicated. No, that's not the right spelling of customers. So let's create another table called customers. Now, this is important. When creating a table, don't pluralize it. You see, I was almost going to say customers, but that will lead to some issues down the line with Dataverse. So if you want to store customers in your table, call the table customer, because Dataverse itself is going to pluralize it. But if you put customers here, when Dataverse pluralizes it, it's going to call it customerses, right? Which is which is wrong. So to keep it sensible and logical, just singularize the name of your table. You might be tempted to put the S, but Dataverse does that for you. So that's good to know. So you saw how I added it. So you just do new table, then add columns and data, then it brings this up. And for customer, so if I come here, I could say name, because that's relevant in this case. So that's the name of the customer. Then I'll add not a new row. Can I delete? Well, it's not relevant though. Okay. So I can add a new column and say email. So that's the email of the customer. I can make that required too. Well, that's fine. So I can do that. So do you have your customer table already? So the name and email.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm where did you go to get the new table? I see the
Yeah. So
right.
at the top
But
here, there's new table. Then you say add columns and data.
oh, and data. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Customer. Did you make email required, or is that also
Yes, I made it required. So you can see the red star.
okay? Oh, wait a minute. Edit column. Name.
Okay. So what I want us to do is to go back to the feedback table and add another column called customer. So maybe we want to track the customer who gave the feedback, which is kind of what we're doing with the submitter email already. But since we are expanding this to have another table, so let's just do that. So we learn some other stuff too anyway. So here we can have the customer.
Or is
What?
the customer that's giving the feedback, yeah?
Yes, but we could allow other people to give feedback too anyway. So, but if it's a customer, we want to know who the customer is.
Customer, okay.
So we could say customer. And in this case, the data type is going to be a lookup because we want to look up to the customer table.
Mm.
And we choose customer.
Mm.
And I actually love this because this is showing only these two tables that are here. I think I like that because usually you have like a very long list.
To like it.
Yeah. And let's not make this required.
Okay.
Because I think we want non-customers also to be able to give feedback. So,
Okay.
so once we've done that, now you see it creates a relationship because it's a lookup, right? So it's because it's a lookup, it creates that relationship for us.
Customer.
So
Let me change that.
and this is another reason why I like this view. So talking about the topic of ERG, it's called entity relationship diagram. And what it means is your entities, which are your tables, you are putting a diagram that shows how they relate to each other. How are they connected? So this kind of helps you even create an ERD because now you can see you have customer and feedback table and it's showing you what the relationship is. So if you look at this now, you can see star. In ERD, stars means many, right? And here you can see one. So if I scroll down, you can see here it says one. And here you see star. Star means many. So it's telling us that we have a one-to-many relationship between customer and feedback table. So that's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have more tables, it's going to help you. It's going to show you how they're connected together.
Just a quick one. Back to relationship. So we have one.
Yes, one customer to many feedbacks.
Okay. But that does it automatically.
Well, because it's a lookup.
Lookup.
So lookup, you know, even many to many, as we saw when we did the class, right? Even many to many is just basically a lookup to that intersect table, right? So many to many is really one to many in two places. So But yeah, if you do a one-to-many relationship or a many-to-one relationship, Dataverse creates that relationship for you. Or if you
So,
do a lookup, Dataverse creates a relationship.
what does it mean if I have created that table, but it hasn't drawn the relationship to the customer, even though I put the related table?
Could it be a UI thing? So do you have the lookup on the feedback? So if you have a lookup, if you have this as a lookup, it should create that relationship.
Yes, I put the lookup for the customer column.
Yeah. So can
But
you share your screen?
sure, let me click from one screen to the next. Okay. All right. So here, my feedback table, my customer.
Okay, it's there. I think it's just the location. So if you drag feedback to the right of customer, yeah, I think it's a UI thing. Because if you notice, you can see there is a one. There is
Yes.
a one there and there's a star there. So the relationship is actually there. It's just not rendered it.
Mm-hmm.
So no issues there.
Okay. Stop sharing.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I've been able to convince Farouk that this is a good interface.
I agree. Now,
All right. So at this point, what we can do, since we're kind of happy with the table, we can do a save and exit.
All right.
And that's so at this point, it's going to create the actual tables in Dataverse.
So, quick question.
Yep.
Okay, from your experience going into client on projects, if the team is not very familiar with Power Apps, and let's say you want to gather information quickly, just so you understand what metrics you guys probably want to track and etc. So you want to create a
Yeah.
Power App to collect this information from, let's say, 10 different teams.
Yeah.
Would you start off with creating um, a Power App, or would you use like a Google document or Google form to have them collect that information just for the of use, the ease of use?
Um, that's a good question. So I think what you're trying to ask in essence is at what point do you decide to do an app instead of something else, like maybe a form?
Yes. Yes, based on your experience, because the starting off with creating a Power App to then create another Power App, does does that create delay and complexity where it isn't needed, or
Yeah.
does it help just streamline everything at the end of the day so you can easily connect everything?
I think is more of a business question at the end of the day, not really like a developer question or
Okay.
more like an analyst question.
Yes.
Because that's really when they decide what is going to be built or not. Because as an architect, if I'm with a client, I want to understand what their pain points are. So they're probably already using the forms or they're probably using something already. I want to understand why that is not working for them, right,
Mm-hmm.
before offering a solution. So in some cases, a form might be the best. And it's quite interesting you asked that question because there's this solution I'm doing internally at my place of work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a Canvas app, but I'm trying to make it like very beautiful and stuff. So at the top, so just like a normal website that has the navigation at the top, the nav menu at the top that has the links to different places. So I have those links, and one of the links there is feedback. I have feedback as a link there. And when I was presenting to my team, I just told them that, my plan for this is just once they click on that, it maybe opens a Microsoft form for them to give the feedback. So, because technically I could have created a form on the app for them to do that. But I just look at the opportunity cost. I'm like, okay, the actual time I spent to create this form and manage the form,
Right.
do I need to do that when I could just use a Microsoft form and still get the data I'm looking for? So,
Right.
which is the exact question you've asked, really.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so it's quite interesting you asked that. But yeah, at that point, I just looked at it and said, well, it's not valuable for me to spend time building this form. I will
Yeah.
just use Microsoft form there. But it could be a client app. If it's a client app I'm doing and it's a requirement that they want a form on the app to collect feedback, then, that's another discussion. Then, that would be part of my requirements and part of what I have to put in place. Obviously, in the architecting phase, we could have said, oh, why not just use a form? Why not just use a Microsoft form? Then they could now say, oh, we want some custom things. We want some maybe dynamic tables. We want some stuff. Then maybe at that point we realize, oh, Microsoft form cannot offer this feature. Then we can create a custom form for that. Do you get?
Yes.
So yeah, those are the kind of thoughts you have to put. And sometimes it's just for consistency. Maybe they're already using Power Apps for a lot of stuff, even though Microsoft Form can do it, but just to keep it consistent, they just create a form on Power Apps. So yeah, those are some choices that you may find yourself having to make. But yeah, it's a good question. Okay. So now, good. At this point, we've created our customer table and our feedback table. Nice. So let's go ahead and create our app. So I've used feedback here as a solution, not because it's a real world solution. It could actually be a real world solution, right? But I've just used this because I feel like we can use it to explore different areas of building Canvas apps in a less scary way, in a more approachable way, if you get what I mean. So we want to create the app now. So to create the Canvas app, you come over to New App, then Canvas app. So that's how you get to create a Canvas app within a solution. And it's always good to create from within a solution. So ordinarily, if you come over to makethepaths.com, if you come to apps, you see you can create an app here from this place. But if you do that, it is outside the solution, which is not really the best practice. So the best practice is for you to do it from within a solution. Though you can create it from outside the solution and move it back in a solution later on. But I will always recommend create the solution, then create all your components from within the solution. All right. So here I'm just going to call this feedback form app. And you have two options. You can do a tablet or a phone layout. Let's do a tablet layout. Hopefully we can make it responsive. Okay, so let me know when you have this.
Did you say tablet or phone?
Tablet.
Okay.
Okay, we're on track.
Are we doing okay? No, we're doing form, right? Not gallery, form.
Oh yeah, so you're already within the Power App, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So Farouk, you're also within the Power App, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So the first thing you should do now is click on this save. Because Power Apps actually does a saving every 2 minutes. So by default is on. It saves every 2 minutes. But this doesn't start until you've saved the app for the first time. So you don't want to find yourself to have worked on an app for a long time and you forgot to save, or maybe your laptop crashes and suddenly, because you've not saved it for the first time, autosave doesn't work and you lose everything. I've been in that situation before. So don't find yourself there because it can be very painful. So once you open it, just click on save, get that out of the way. Now, the next thing we want to do is so let's just look at this interface now. What are we looking at? So we have this middle here, which is our canvas. Now the canvas is where you put all your, all your UI stuff, everything. On the right here, we have the properties. We have this button. We now have this button here to hide and show the properties pane. So that's good to know. Now, depending on whatever is selected, you are going to be seeing different properties here. So keep an eye on that. And changing the properties is how you actually customize it. So, this is low code. In a normal coding development, you'll find yourself writing code to put the properties and stuff. But here, by customizing these properties here, you change whatever is selected. Right now, you can see the screen is selected. So if I come here and I change the color, you can see it changes the color of the screen. So let's see. So that's on the right here. On the left here, we have this kind of like a navigation pane. The first thing we see here is the tree view. Now the tree view shows the hierarchy of how the controls on your screen are laid out. When I say controls, I mean the things that you've added to the screen. We'll see that next. So over here in the insert pane, we see all our controls. So all of these are different controls you can add to your screen. So you can add buttons, text, pen inputs, blah, 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 display controls. Like there's so many controls that can be added, right? So you see all of those controls here, and you can see even icons, images, videos. So you can add all this stuff to make up your app. So you see them on the insert pane. The next pane you have here is the data pane, which is where you can add data sources and where you see all the data sources that your app uses. In this case, right now, our app has no data source. So we'll come back to see how we can add data sources here. The next pane is the variables. So when you see, when you start creating variables, you'll see them show up here, basically. And maybe you want to see the current value of a variable. After you've started using the variables, you'll see the values here too. And search, I used to call this super search because whatever you type in, so if I type in screen now, it's going to find everywhere whatever you type in is mentioned on the app, right? So this thing, we didn't have this before. So when we had it, I used to call it super search. It's just search, but because it's like an app-wide search. So on the tree view here, this is what we had before. And if I search for screen here, you see here it returns just this screen. So this on the tree view here, this search shows only the controls that matches whatever you search. But this one, whether it's control, whether it's code, anything that matches what you search, it shows it up. And you can do a quick replace too if you want. Okay. Are we on track?
Yep.
All right. At the top here, we have some buttons. Some of them are just like a repetition of what we have here, like the insert and the data. Even new screen, from here, you can create a new screen, right? So this one here is just a repetition of that. We have theme. So theme is not the greatest feature, because it's not as customizable as you would want it to be. So not so much to say about that, but depending on the theme selected, it affects the control. So for example, if I add a new button, for example, you see now it's bluish. But if I change the theme to orange, then you can see the button changes to orange. Even though I can control the actual color, but the theme just applies an overall color to the controls. So that's theme. Background color, nothing to bother about there. Settings is also useful. So if you come to settings, this is where you can give a description to your app. If you have an icon for your app, you can put that in here too. So you can upload your PNG icon. You can give it like a background so you can see as I change it, if it's like a transparent icon or something, then you can still give it a background color. So over here, we have a setting that says can be used offline. So if you want your users to be able to use your app offline, well, this works only if it's Dataverse, but you can set that on. You can turn it on. And there's something called an offline profile, which is where you specify the relevant columns. So basically, say your database has 100 columns. A lot of times you don't need all of those 100 columns offline because it's just going to add more to the overload, to the load of what needs to be done offline. So this offline profile is a way for you to select just a few columns you need to be available offline. And basically when that person gets internet, it's going to sync the data and upload all the offline data and things like that. One thing about this settings tab that you want to keep an eye on is this updates. So updates shows like different features that Power Apps are introducing and some features that they're retiring. So a retired feature means they don't want you to use it again. So what you want is you don't want any of the retired features to be enabled. So now you can say this is enabled. Ideally, you don't want that. You want all your retired features to be off because you shouldn't be using them anymore. One day Microsoft can come and say they are no longer supporting it. Well, retired means they don't want you to use it anymore. So it's more like saying they are no longer supporting it, right? We have experimental. I think we'll have a short break soon in the next 2 minutes. We have experimental. Experimental are stuff that they are still trying, they are still building it, they're still developing it. So it can change. So that's why they say don't use it in a production app. Because, today is experimental, tomorrow they can say they are no longer doing it. Just like that cards, for example, right? I think even cards was generally available, but perhaps I've turned that back to say they are no longer doing it. So, and they've said everybody that have used cards, they should go and change it to something else, right? So that's the risk you face when you use an experimental feature. We have preview features. These are features that they are going to release it, but it's not yet generally available. So they are just giving you to test it out. So they're still rolling it out. So preview features, some regions might have it, some regions might not have it yet. So it's still used at your own risk, and they tell you don't use it in production, right? Because it's still preview. So that means if a lot of people give them feedback and say this thing is not working fine, that means they still need to go back and develop it. So the features you want to use are these ones that are new. These are, generally available already. So you can use them and you should generally not have issues with them. And over time, they disappear from here because they are already generally available, and it's no longer a new feature at that point. But it's always nice to keep an eye on this. It lets you know where things are headed. So by looking at experimental feature, you get to see some features that are coming. You get to know some features that are being retired so that you stop using them, and you get to see the new stuff that are available. So do we get that? Yep.
Yeah, that was clear.
Okay, cool. So let's have a 5 minutes break till 1:30, and we will continue from there.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Question:
Cheers.
when does
Okay.
when does the class end today? Is it in half an hour or?
Yes, in half an hour. Yes, 2 p.m. BST.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Malika, are you back?
Yes.
Okay. Tosin,
Yeah.
are you back? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
nice. Welcome. Yeah, we've covered a couple of stuff, but you should be able to catch it
Yeah,
up
I'll just
from
see
the
the video.
recording. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, I think those are a couple of things that are important when it comes to the settings.
A quick question. A
Yeah.
quick
Go on.
question.
Yeah.
I was trying to find where you found those settings.
Yeah.
Could you just
So
show me how
at the
you
top,
navigated there?
here. So if you click on
The
this
three dots.
button,
Okay.
yeah, you should
Thank you.
see settings.
It's so funny. Like if I look away for a second, I miss a lot.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that second screen is very essential. Cool. All right. So over here we have a couple of stuff too. So I already showed you us the property to trigger it open or closed. Comments, nobody cares about that. App checker allows you to see errors or issues with your app. So it categorizes it in different areas like formulas. So if there's an error with a formula, um, that this is going to show up here. We have runtime error. Runtime errors are interesting. Is runtime errors when you write the formula. So formula error, right? When you write it, it shows the error straight away. But runtime error, the app doesn't know it is an error until the app is running. So for example, say you are trying to do a calculation and suddenly you are trying to do 1 divided by 0. The app itself will not know. And let's even demonstrate that. So if where did I even get this screen from? I can't remember creating the screen. So if I add a button here and I say 1 divided by 0. So you can see this is not an error, right? If I come here, you can see there's no error. But if I click on play and I do that, now an error comes up, invalid operation division by 0, right? Because mathematically that's wrong. Then now you see that shows up as a runtime error. So there are some type of errors that will not show until somebody does something that could cause errors. Another example of that is, say you're trying to patch a record in the database, right? Maybe the column is expecting a number and you're trying to patch in a text. And you're trying to patch in a text. In that case, it's going to throw an error too. It's going to throw a runtime error that says, wrong column type or something like that. So, but over here, you're going to be able to see the error. And if you click on it, it kind of gives you some ideas of, okay, you can see where the error came from. You can see it's from the button on select and invalid operation division by 0. So now, because the error has been triggered, now you see it shows up as an error. So that's something to know. So still back here in app checker. So we have accessibility also, which is where it just looks at the controls you have to see whether you've put in the correct accessibility properties. So every control, different controls have different accessibility properties that you can customize. A lot of times you get to miss it, right? I've been thinking of putting together like a chat bot or something that can help out with accessibility, but no, I've not gotten the time to do that. So, but here it's saying revise screen name. So it's telling us, oh, screen 1 is not an accessible name. And the reason for that is if somebody is using a screen reader, it's going to read out the name of the screen. And imagine someone opening an app, you can't see is relying just on audio, and the app opens and it says screen 1. That has not really told him anything. So here you could just say maybe something like homepage, right? And and let's see, is it still complaining about that? Still is. give the screen a title that describes what's on the screen or what is useful. So yeah, maybe making it more descriptive will take that away. But that's the idea of app checker. And you also see performance. Performance comes into play. So it looks at the number of controls you have on your screen. Remember, I've said that, for Canvas app stuff, they don't want you to have too many controls on the screen, right? So this is just going to help you check to see, are you still within a good range? Once you go over, it's going to flag it up and say this could be a potential performance issue. We also have data source. Maybe the formulas you've written, if you've not written them properly, you could flag it up here and say, because there's some ways you can write a formula that it won't return all the values. So maybe you want to get the people that their name starts with A. If you don't write the formula correctly, it will return some data, but it's not going to return everybody that matches that record, that condition, and that could lead to issues. But you learn more about this as we continue coding. Are we on track?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, cool. So now we want to put together a simple layout. We want to be able to view the submissions, the feedback submissions, right? We want to be able to submit a new feedback. And what else do we want to be able to do? And maybe update the feedback. So what we can do, first off, I always like to start with data. So let's add the data sources that we need. So if we come in here, I can search for the tables we created, which is feedback. I think I call the feedback table. I already had this one before, I hope. So I think I call the feedback table. And I think customer. So let me get that in first. And this is what I was saying about the pluralization, right? You see, even though I called the actual table feedback table, you can see Dataverse has pluralized it for me. So let me search for customer, which I hope is this one. And you can see this one too comes out as customers. Yeah.
I have a question, sorry.
Okay.
So this table, we created them from in the solution. Okay, what if there is another solution where there were customers also table created? On here, would it still show all database tables or just the one we created in the solution?
So it's going to show all, and but potentially you'll find yourself trying to figure which one is which. So yeah, it's going to show all. Should it allow you create the same name? So it probably shouldn't, especially if I hover on this, you can see it shows me customers, that pop-up that comes up like a tooltip. So you can see it says table VLS underscore customer. I want to believe you can't have two tables with VLS underscore customer. So even though the display name will be the same, the internal name will be different. So if you are trying to create another customer table, the display name might also show up as customer, but internally, Dataverse will do something, maybe to call it customer one, VLS underscore customer one or something. Okay. So that can be a way for you to identify which is which. But just from the display name, you probably, so because here it just shows it doesn't show the internal name, it just shows the display name. Okay, so it's not showing up for me here because I've added it already. Okay. And if the table didn't exist before, you can come here and still create new tables. And so you still get that same experience. The nice thing about doing it this way is once you do save and exit, it automatically adds that table into your app. So here you see we had to manually select the table. Yeah. But if you created the table from within the app, it will automatically add it in. So depending on what you're doing. Okay. So have you been able to add the tables?
Yeah.
All right. And Tosi, I won't believe you can even catch up because you're quite familiar with creating tables already. So you can basically open an app and just to create a new table, feedback customers, maybe. And obviously you can review the recordings once they are published.
Yeah, I'm a bit in and out, so I'll just
Yeah.
do recordings.
Yep, no worries. So coming over here, okay, so yeah, we have about 20 minutes more. So let's see what we can do. So we've added the table. So let's first view the data. It's always nice to view the data. To view data, there are a couple of controls you can use. So there's something called a data table. So I'm just going to select data table and choose feedback table. So yeah, so this is the data table. Data tables
I
would have
missed
been.
that. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, how did you?
So I've come to the home page here and I've come to insert.
Tree view.
Yeah.
Screen.
And
I'm seeing screen 1. Is that the same thing
oh
as home?
yes. I renamed this one.
Okay, so I should rename form number 1 as homepage.
No, so we've not added the form. We just had the screen here.
Oh, screen. Yeah, rename as homepage. Okay, homepage. All right, and then click it.
Then when I want to add controls, as much
Mhm.
as we have the insert down here, but a lot of times I keep it on the tree view. Then I use this insert at the top here because it's kind of more accessible. So I just do insert, then I search for data table.
Okay.
Then when that comes up, you just choose the feedback table. And there we see the data table.
That didn't happen for me.
Do you want to share your screen? Do you want to share your
Sure.
screen?
I promise next week I will have more than one screen.
Yeah, that's fine. No worries.
Definitely will have it. Share.
And well done for waking up so early for this.
Oh, thank you. After having to wake up to feed the baby, yes. Thank you. Okay, so.
Okay. All right, so you have the data table. But it looks like you've not selected the data source. So once you select the data table, just choose feedback. Yeah, choose feedback. Okay, that's it.
So why does it say
So
this?
it looks like no,
connected?
you still have a form, so you can delete the form. Is the form that is prompting that. So you
Oh,
can delete the form for now. Later on, we'll still add it anyway, but can delete it for now. Okay. So I'll share my screen.
yes.
Mine is orange because I chose an orange theme. So no issues there. Now the data table, it sounds nice, but in practice, I don't use it a lot personally. Because you can't really customize it too much. And this is quite nice. Now that I look at it, I wonder why I don't use it so much. Because it feels like so let's see, does he have an on select? Because I think that was one of the main issues. No, it doesn't. So that's why we don't use it, obviously. So because a lot of times when you show a list, so maybe you're on the homepage of an app, you want it such that when the user selects the item, it takes them to the record, right? But because the data table doesn't have an on select, we can't do that. So we tend to use galleries a lot to display data, to display a list of records. But it's good to know that it's possible to do it with a data table. And just while we are on data table, on the properties on the right here, we have fields. So fields is what determines what columns are available here. So I can say I don't want to see this, I don't want to see this. So you can decide what columns and what order. So you can reorder them by moving it around here. So you can decide what columns, what order you want them to be. Okay. So that's data table. You might find some use for it anyway, but the main limitation is it doesn't have an on-select property. So I'm going to delete this. And now let's add a gallery. So a gallery is another way of viewing a list of records. We have different options. I always like to do the blank ones. So let's do a blank vertical gallery. Okay. So do you have your gallery?
Yeah.
I love it. So if you have the gallery selected, you see you have different properties here. For the data source, I want to see feedbacks. So I'm just going to choose a feedback table as the data source. Okay.
Gallery. I do not have the gallery. Page. I have the data table, but I don't have the gallery.
Are you using the search?
Search.
So when you come to insert, that's what I do all the time. I just come to insert, then I search from here. So you should see blank vertical gallery.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Data source will be customers?
No, let's do feedback tables.
Again? Okay.
Okay. But you notice nothing really happens to the gallery, right? We can't see anything. That's because the gallery itself has no content. So there's something I want us to understand. It's called containers. It's very good when you understand containers. I will start explaining it now, but that means we won't be able to complete the feedback form. So we'll continue from where we stop next week. But I feel like this is a good opportunity for us to learn containers. It takes a little bit to understand, but this seems like a good context. So what you can do now is for your gallery, you will see this stuff that says add an item from insert pane or connect to data. Well, we've connected to data, so let's add an item. So if you click on that, so you can either click on that, or once you have a gallery selected, this is a more consistent way to do it. Once you have a gallery selected, you should see this edit gallery icon, this pencil icon. So if you click on that, at this point, anything you add is going to go inside the gallery. So if I come in here, so I'm going to do insert, and I'm going to add a horizontal container. So as I said, I want to use this opportunity to teach us about containers. This is very useful. Okay. So I had my gallery selected. I clicked on edit. Then I went to insert and I added horizontal container. So do you have that already?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Malika, let me know when you do.
Okay, working on it. Horizontal container. Blank horizontal gallery, right? No, horizontal container.
Horizontal container.
Okay. Oops, undo. Okay, insert blank horizontal container. Okay. So are we putting 2 containers or 1?
No, just one.
But it looks like 2 when you put
Well,
the one.
mine does because I have 2 records in my table. How
Okay,
many records do you have in your table?
2 as well.
So
So yeah.
Yeah, that's why it looks like 2.
Okay.
So, because that's the thing about gallery, it shows the records you have in your table. Right now, it's not displaying data. So, but when I click on edit here, you see it highlights just this top, right? So this top is the template. Now you see if I click on this container and I move it, or say I shrink it or something, you see it shrinks the other one because this is the template. So however we design this first row, that's how all the other rows are going to look like. So let's do a couple of things. Let's select that container. For the position property, so on the right here, we have some properties. So we have a property called position. So for the X property, let's put 0. And the Y property, let's put 0. Okay. So now you can see that brings my container to the top left, right? So let me know when you've done that.
All right, all done.
Okay. Now for the width, so with the container selected, we have this property switcher at the top. So let's come to the width. So if you come here, you should see width. And right now it's 479. You see that's the same thing that is here. But at the top here, I've not mentioned what this top here is. This top here is called the formula bar, which is what we saw the other time when we were writing PowerFX. So this is where you write your PowerFX code, write your PowerFX expressions. So let's say there used to be a guide here, but it seems to have taken it away. I think before you used to be able to click on this and it takes you to the Power Apps documentation, but that's not happening right now. Okay, but never mind. So this is PowerFX. So here you can either type in a number. So if I want it to be 500, I can either just type that in, or I can write a formula. So in this case, we want the width of the container to follow the width of the gallery. So right now, you see if I expand the gallery, the container itself doesn't expand. But we want it to follow the width of the gallery. So for us to do that, we say parent.width. So what that means is whatever the width of his parent. Now remember, this is a tree view, so it's like a parent-child relationship. Gallery 1 is a child of homepage. Container 1 is a child of gallery 1, right? So when we say parent, on the parent of container 1 is this gallery 1. So when we say parent.width, that means any width that the gallery has, this guy follows it. So now you can see as I'm expanding this, is expanding to meet up with the gallery, right? So that's how we start writing formulas. Okay. So have you done that? So on the container, we have the width. Type in parent.width for that. So it makes it dynamic, basically.
Is there a way you save it after typing the
Can you say
formula?
that again?
So after you type in the formula, you just exit, like you just tap out of the
Yeah, you
screen.
just tap out. Yeah.
It didn't work when I did it. It's like I'm having all the challenges today, right?
No, it's fine. You can share your screen.
Okay.
It wasn't working previously, but now it's working.
Oh, okay.
All right. Share. Entire screen. Okay. So
Yep. Also, it's in content language. That does happen a lot. So, content language was usually the value. I think it's just empty string. So just remove the parent.width from there and just put in 2 quotation marks. Yeah, so that was the actual value. So instead of content language, change that to width. So on the left, where you see that drop down, so just click on, no. So the left, so where you see content language being written, click on
Oh,
that.
content now. Okay.
Yeah. So you want to be in the width property instead. So if you scroll down, that's width. Yeah. So
Okay.
this is where you want to type it.
Okay. So anytime you want to adjust a feature, come here.
Yeah, exactly. So the height is there, the fill is there. We have different properties that
Good to
you can
know.
edit. So yeah, if you want to type in a formula for a particular property, then you choose it from that option. Okay, let me share my screen again. Got 3 minutes more. Hopefully we'll see the data before we leave in. All right. So yeah, so that's the width there, yeah. Just so that we get a little bit excited. So select the container, then add a text label. Or add 2 text labels. So add another text label. So now I've added 2 text labels within the container. The reason why I like using containers is containers allows you to organize your layouts easily. It allows you to organize your layout easily. Before, you would need to write you would need to write a lot of formulas to put it in side by side. But because we've used an horizontal container, anything we add to that container is just going to go to the side. So it's just going to stay side by side, which is very helpful.
Makes sense.
So for this first one, I'm going to change it to this item. So because a gallery shows a list of records, how do you refer to each row? You refer to each row with this item. So we say this item dot title. Now we are starting to see that data that was in our data source, right? And for the second one, I can say this item dot feedback text.
Okay, I understand. I'm trying to. I'm a bit lost. So
Okay.
obviously, gallery was like a.
Do you want to share your screen?
So yes, I have what you have on your screen. So I'm just trying to understand.
Okay. Oh, okay,
concept.
nice.
So
Yeah.
the gallery is basically wants to show our data. The gallery, yes.
Yeah.
And we're using the container, and from the container we use a horizontal because we want the items to be next to each other. So we
Yeah.
have the job, and we have which is the title.
Yeah.
Column, yeah.
And the other one is
What's
the feedback text.
column? Okay. Okay. And the reason why we have two items or two because of the is it because of the sample data we brought in?
Yeah, so if I come to my table here now, you see I have 2 rows. If I add a new row, and no, that's a new column. If I add a new row and I say nice, right? And I say very nice.
Yeah, okay, I understand now. So even put solution. It's not letting us pick the choice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
allow.
Yeah, it's just a lot of clicking, but probably did. So at this point, if I come here and I say refresh, okay, I think it didn't allow it actually. Okay, so that's there. Let me click on play. Oh, yeah. So you see now I have three rows.
How does it work
Okay.
in the context of choice though? So I know
Yeah,
label.
so that's a good question. So if I add another one here, another label, so it's still this item. So that's where you remember I said, use the dot to explore the options, right?
Yeah.
So here I can say dot, this item dot, what's our choice column name? Submission type. Then, oh, that's even weird. It just goes straight. Usually it needs to be dot, but this data verse anyway. So interestingly, it just accepted this item dot submission type and it brought out the value. So you see, with this, you can kind of simulate the information you had with your data table, right? You can kind of simulate that. And this is what we use because for the gallery, we have an onSelect property. So the onSelect means you can trigger some code when somebody selects on a record, which is, what the use case we find a lot. And because it's a gallery, you can add different things. You can add buttons, you can add icons. So you can add a lot of stuff, and a lot of apps need custom stuff. So we tend to use gallery a lot when trying to display the kind of information you would have displayed with a data table. Obviously, the gallery is more work, but containers makes it much more easier. So we are going to stop there for today. I feel like this has been I hope this has been a good introduction to Canvas apps, and
Do
we'll
we
take it
publish?
further next week. Yes, please. Save and publish. Very important. So publishing just means the changes are available to the users of the app. So in some cases in the real world, you want to save so that it doesn't impact users immediately until you're fully ready. But ideally, you should be building in the dev environment anyway. So there should be no real users in the dev environment. So you should be happy to just publish straight away. Okay, any questions before we go?
I think I'll have to just check in with you about this last step.
Yeah.
Yes, the gallery function didn't work. So
Okay, yeah.
but we can check in after because I know time.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, yes, thanks everyone. Have a great weekend and a great week next week.
All
All
right.
right.
Thanks everyone. Have a good one.
Okay. Cheers. Bye.
See you next week. Cheers. Bye.